Almighty God, we, the representatives of the citizens of the City of Brisbane, are assembled here to strive and care for the welfare of our city and all its people. Lord, we ask that you guide us in the decisions we make today. Amen. Brisbane City Council acknowledges this country and its traditional custodians. We acknowledge and respect the spiritual relationship between traditional custodians and this country, which has inspired language, songs, dances, law and dreaming stories over many thousands of years. We pay our respects to the elders, those who have passed into the dreaming, those here today, those of tomorrow. May we continue to peacefully walk together in gratitude, respect and kindness, in caring for this country and one another. Please be seated. I declare the meeting open. Are there any apologies?
Yes.
Councillor Cassidy.
I wish to advise Councillor Griffiths will be absent from today's meeting and move that he be granted a leave of absence.
Seconded.
It has been moved by Councillor Cassidy and seconded by Councillor sorry, it's having a moment, Collier, that Councillor Griffith be granted a leave of absence from today's meeting. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Confirmation of minutes, please.
Chair, I move that the minutes of the 4,736 meeting held on Tuesday the 28th of May 2024 be received, taken as read and confirmed.
Seconded.
It has been moved by Councillor Dixon and seconded by Councillor Givney that the minutes of the 4,736th meeting of Council held on the 28th of May 2024 be received, taken as read and confirmed. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Are there any questions of the Lord Mayor or a Civic Cabinet Chair of any of the standing committees? Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to the Chair of the Infrastructure Committee, Councillor Wines. Councillor Wines, hot on the heels of Fiona Hammond's candidacy for Stafford, we've seen the State MP and for the first time the Transport Minister raise concerns about the Hamilton Road and Western Avenue intersection, something he has refused to touch for the last 4 years. Can you please update the Chamber on the history of this project, including why you are sceptical about the member's comments?
Councillor Wines.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Councillor Parry, for the question. Councillor Parry, of course, has been a very keen advocate for progress on Hamilton Road. Now, Hamilton Road is a key east-west link through the central northern suburbs of Brisbane City, and it has some of the worst intersections. Excuse me, it has the worst intersection, I think, in the city, which is, of course, Hamilton Road, Gympie Road, which Annika Wells promised to provide some money for, which has yet to appear, which Sterling Hinchcliffe, despite my advocacy, refused to address. And now the state government has the temerity to say that we are not acting properly on some of our intersections. Well, considering the Labor Party's deep and sincere record of inaction when it comes to improving that roadway, it became fascinating when I saw Mr Sullivan, the MP for Stafford, take a moment to go on Facebook and record a video talking about his passion for the Hamilton Road access point to the Prince Charles Hospital. Now, just for those who don't recall, retired Councillor Hammond tried to meet with Jimmy Sullivan on 19 occasions and was refused at each and every one of them. The fact that Mr Sullivan refused to meet with her and the fact that he was quite dismissive about this particular matter is one of the reasons that the retired Councillor Hammond is seeking to be the member for Stafford. Because Jimmy Sullivan does not care for that community, and don't ask me about that. His local branch members actually challenged him, being the only incumbent Labor MP to be challenged. Now, there could be a number of reasons for that. One of them would be the fact that he ignores key safety issues in his own community, like Hamilton Road. The other one could be that the video presentation was outrageously bad. Now, I'm going to break some bonds here with the public. You don't actually have to put up the first one you do when you do a Facebook video, but hopefully that was the first and only take that Jimmy did, because that was the best one. He's got some work to do. Now, The other thing that was really interesting about that video was that he was there with a man called Minister Bart Mellish. And Bart Mellish made a really interesting claim. Bart said in the video, "We've got some big money invested in fixing road congestion across the north side, and we really want to step up and make a contribution." Well, how much? It's an interesting figure, but it's here, it's big money. Big money. Big money is what they're saying out the front of Hamilton Road. Now, to talk about what sort of project this is a $21 million upgrade. Mr Sullivan is criticising us because one of the principal beneficiaries of that upgrade is the hospital, which is 100% the state government's property. They have employees who work in that facility. They have patients and patients' families who must be tended to in that facility. It is 100% their jurisdiction. Now, just to talk, as I say, it's a $21 million project, and I'm really interested that Mr Mellish says there's big money now available and he wants to come to the table, because I have here a letter from the former Minister for Health, Yvette Darth, who wrote to us very recently, in December 2021, this was received, and in that she writes, Metropolitan North Hospitals, or Metropolitan North Health, has advised Council that it does not have funds available to contribute to the Hamilton Road access point. Hamilton Road is not a state road, and therefore neither they nor Main Roads are available to contribute towards the cost of the access to their own facility. So here we have big money Bart Mellish telling us there's money available for Hamilton Road, yet the first sign of activity, the first approach they make to us isn't to reach out to us and offer mutual support, which we have written to them on a number of occasions seeking, but rather to go to Facebook, make a very bad video where they say there's big money available. Well, I look forward to seeing that big money from Big Money Bart Mellish, and that they make a meaningful contribution. And when I say meaningful, I don't mean single-figure millions, I mean $10 to $20 million toward that intersection, actual big money, to fix the issue that they are criticising us for, that is 100% their responsibility.
Further questions? Councillor Cassidy.
Thanks very much, Chair. My question is to the Chair of the Environment, Parks and Sustainability Committee, Councillor Tracy Davis. Councillor Davis, I've been advised that the Boondall Wetlands Environment Centre will have its weekend hours slashed and will now only be open from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. I've already been contacted by distraught volunteers who think this is a terrible decision. Are you cutting these staff hours as part of your so-called sensible savings?
Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I thank the councillor for the question. And what I can assure the councillor is that no staff member, a casual, that is currently working at Boondall Environment Centre will have less hours. So we are working, of course, closely with the environment centres at the moment, but I can be assured that no staff member will have less hours working for council. Now, that might not look like being at the Boondall Wetlands Environment Centre. My understanding is that there is some conversation at the moment that some of those staff, those casuals, may be relocated to assist at the planetarium at the Mount Cootha Botanic Gardens, but I can assure the councillor that no hours will be reduced for any of those staff. I do think it's really important to mention, of course, that tomorrow is World Environment Day while we're on this topic, and all of our environment centres are undertaking some activities or hosting activities, so people can go to either the Boondall Wetlands Environment Centre, one close to my home at Downfall Creek, and of course out at Karawatha. And I know that a lot of the local schools in the area are hosting events, and I'm sure some of our councillors will be able to attend some of those, because Brisbane City Council does support the schools in some way, particularly with giving out of free native plants. So, Madam Chair, we will continue to support our environment centres. They're important to our local residents to be able to access. And again, I can assure the councillor that no hours will be reduced for any of those casual staff. Thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Parry.
My question is to the Chair of the Environment, Parks and Sustainability Committee, Councillor Davis. Councillor Davis, the Schrinner Council's award-winning Bradbury Park project received some more news last week. Can you please share with the Chamber this exciting update?
Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you I thank Councillor Parry for the question, because I know that Councillor Parry is always excited to talk about Bradbury Park, and I don't blame her. I'm always excited to talk about Bradbury Park and what a fantastic project it is, and of course the recognition that it continues to receive, because just last week, Councillor Parry, the Bradbury Park Playscape took home yet another accolade at the Parks and Leisure Australia Regional Awards for Excellence, where it was placed first in the Playscape over $500,000 category. The Regional Award for Excellence is conferred on a Playscape project that contributes to the creation of a sense of place for its local community and exhibits landscape and structural design innovation that delights and aids childhood development. And I would say, Madam Chair, that Bradbury Park absolutely fits that bill perfectly, and it appears that the industry leaders also agree. Of course, its structural design is the first thing that you notice. It's absolutely massive, and it really is unlike anything that we've ever seen. To get a structure like this to work, you have to embrace innovation and an innovative mindset. But what makes it really special is that it encourages children to innovate as well, to challenge themselves and to experience a new kind of play that inspires confidence and problem solving. Bear in mind, Madam Chair, this is just the regional awards, so Bradbury Park will now advance to the national awards later this year. And given the recognition that it's received so far, I'd say that we're in with a very good shot at taking home the gold for that one too. After all, not only is Bradbury Park been recognised as the best playscape in our region, recently it was celebrated as Brisbane's Building of the Year by the Australian Institute of Architects, which of course was an outstanding result. And as I mentioned, this was just one of 4 titles that was taken home from those, where we also received the People's Choice Award, the Commendation for Public Architecture and a Commendation for Urban Design. So with the latest award from Parks and Leisure Australia, that brings the total to 5 awards for this amazing design, and I'm sure, Madam Chair, that there are many more down the track. Of course, those aren't the only awards that come out of the Bradbury Park Improvement Project. In 2021, the scooter track won a Landscape Architecture Award along with the Award of Excellence on the Magic Forest Nature Playscape. And anyone that's been down to see the Magic Forest, I'm sure Councillor Parry, you have, it is a very, very, very special place for the little ones. Both are the highest awards given their respective categories. So that's a massive 7 awards that we've seen now for one of Brisbane's most unique suburban parks projects. And once again, I think a big congratulations to the team on that effort. Madam Chair, it really does go to show that we are delivering more to see and do across the suburbs of Brisbane. We are fortunate to have an expanse of open space in our city with more than 2,000 parks and, of course, nature right on our doorstep. And we saw during the pandemic how important access to world-class open spaces was to residents in their suburbs, especially when it wasn't possible for them to get out and enjoy the great outdoors. So once again, in this cost of living crisis, we hear from residents just how amazing it is that they've got so much to see and do locally for free in our parks in Brisbane, and Bradbury Park Playscape is just one of those. So we're very proud, not only of the awards we received, but of our record of delivering for residents in the suburbs of Brisbane. It should be noted that since this Lord Mayor came into office, we've added 68 new parks, to our growing network, and that's an additional 264 hectares of new open space. Wow. And of course, that's not including what will be created through the VHBB. As we saw in the quarterly progress report last week, in just the last 3 months, we've delivered 41 park projects with 11 more underway, and that's not something that you hear the opposition talk much about, Madam Chair, which is a bit disappointing because much of it's happening in their wards. There's, of course, the Archerfield Wetlands District Park in the Maruka ward, but in recent months we've also delivered new playgrounds at Dunvegan Street Park and Heathwood Park in the Callumvale ward, with 6 more underway, including in Morningside, Callumvale and Deagon ward. And of course there's a Sunsafe Suburban Playgrounds program which continues to roll out. In fact, I believe we've recently installed 6 shade sails in the Forest Lake ward, with another 2 underway, Councillor Strunk. So these aren't all Bradbury Park, Madam Chair, but they are important to their local communities, and they are something that we are continuing to invest in across the city. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Further questions, Councillor Collier.
Thanks, Chair. My question is to the Civic Cabinet Chair for Finance and City Governance, Councillor Fiona Cunningham. Given your previous comments and actions in this place, over the last few weeks, we're unsure. Do you believe that workers performing basic council work on a contract deserve the same amount of respect as workers on council's EBA?
Councillor Cunningham.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks to Councillor Collier for the question. Week in and week out, we have come into this chamber and explained that we need to make sensible savings at Brisbane City Council. That means that 90% of the work that Council does for the residents of Brisbane will continue to be done. Councillor Collier is talking about workforce arrangements. We have been very clear with all council employees that if you are a permanent employee of Brisbane City Council, you have absolutely nothing to be concerned about. Week in and week out, they come in here and fearmonger and try to whip up some kind of sense of disaster, and it's just not true, Madam Chair. If Councillor Collier has very specific examples that she would like to raise with me, she can do so. In fact, in general business of our committee, the entire time she has not asked me one question this term. I'm very happy to discuss items with Councillor Collier. This is extensive.
Point of order, Chair.
Point of order, Councillor Cassidy.
I want to take Councillor Cunningham at her word right now and ask you to direct the councillor to answer the actual question that was asked and whether the chair believes that contract staff deserve the same amount of respect as council employees. She's not answering the question.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cunningham, can you come back to the question? You still do have 3 minutes to answer.
Certainly, Madam Chair. All staff deserve our utmost respect for improving the lives of Brisbane residents. But Brisbane City Council has a number of job types, okay? And contrary to what the opposition suggests, through their misleading statements in this chamber every week, the vast majority of our workforce are permanent employees. And week after week, I have said that the permanent employees of council who are protected by our EBA will continue to be protected through our EBA. Like most large organisations, council does use supplementary workforce suppliers. But you see, Madam Chair, they're only used when suitable internal resourcing is not available to meet the operational requirements, and quite often it's used for project work. It's not just council that does this, Madam Chair. It's the whole workforce of Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. There is nothing against the law. All employees deserve our respect, and that is what they get. Very serious matters. Now, if Councillor Collier, through you, Madam Chair, has specific examples of cases, like I have said, week in and week out, she's welcome to raise them with me. She has never raised them with me. She comes in here, tries to whip up fear and concern, representing her union officials, not representing the people of Brisbane or the residents of her ward. Now, Federal Employment Minister Tony Burke previously told the National Press Club, and this is interesting, I wanted to bring this up, because he says there are lots of appropriate uses for labour hire. At different times that I've been an employer over the years, I've used labour hire. So it also must not be ignored, Madam Chair, that for a number of reasons, there are many employees who actually choose these arrangements, right? So these reasons include things like being able to work across a whole lot of different industries or projects, perhaps it's work-life balance or for more flexibility. But supplementary workers aren't paid any less than the applicable rates. There is an agreed process that Council has to use these suppliers. And once again, they do obviously deserve our respect. But we have been very clear that permanent employees of Council have nothing to be concerned about. Now, once again, I challenge Councillor Collier, if she has specific examples, tell me about them. Every week, you sit opposite me in committee and you have never raised this. So, Madam Chair.
Councillor Cunningham, your time has expired. Further questions? Councillor Huang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to the Chair of the Transport Committee, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Murphy, the Schooner Council's Kangaroo Point Bridge is getting close to completion with a recent milestone achieved. Can you please update the Chamber on the latest in this project?
Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you through you, Chair, to Councillor Huang for the question. And what a significant week it has been for the Kangaroo Point Green Bridge. The final 25-metre span for the bridge was craned in this week and secured into place. We know it's been 2 long years since the bridge work started, but we're starting to get a little bit excited on this side of the chamber, Chair, because the final span being in place means that this bridge that's been talked about since the 1800s is almost complete. And we know residents are excited about the bridge as well, Chair. We couldn't help but notice the buzz on social media that occurred over the last week as pictures of the 100-tonne span being streamed in as it made its journey down the river from all sorts of people posting about it. Now, what will happen is the concrete will be poured into the deck unit, and once that is complete, the final span will feature a public viewing platform on both sides. It will embrace 360-degree views of the river and the city. With all major structural elements now complete, we're getting to work on the finishing touches that will make this bridge an icon of the River City. Installation of the stainless steel balustrade has now begun with around 25% installed to date, and construction of the seats and planters is commencing soon. Work has also begun in CT White Park on the Kangaroo Point side to construct the stairs and elevator leading up to the bridge, as well as some privacy screens on the bridge for Scott Street residents. All councillors will recall that this bridge is the only steel cable-stayed suspension bridge in Brisbane and one of only a few in Australia. And that has meant we've had to bring in significant international expertise and know-how to install and stress the 32 steel cables which bind the bridge deck to the main mast. This is delicate and precise work, Madam Chair, but I advise the Chamber that the cable stressing has now been achieved to all of its design outcomes, and it's been achieved to within 3 millimetres of accuracy. All 32 cables have been installed and stressed, which now means that the bridge is self-supporting. But I know what you're all probably wondering, what about the restaurant and the cafe? Well, I met with Michael Tassis from Tassis Group last week, and he assures me that's all coming along very nicely. The steel structure for the above-water restaurant has arrived, and the upper section of the roof has also been installed. Concrete flooring, walls and the roof have all been poured in the last month in preparation for the final works at the CBD Plaza, linking into the new signalised crossing on Alice and Edward Streets. This will provide a connection into CityLink cycleway that will give a safe and accessible link for an estimated 6,100 pedestrians, cyclists and scooter users that will use this bridge every day.
But this number, we expect, will be a lot more than we originally anticipated, Chair. We only need to look at our newest bridge at Breakfast Creek, where the daily trips have actually nearly tripled from the original forecast of 1,300. Trips on surrounding infrastructure like Laura's Bonnie Riverwalk are up nearly 50% for some modes of active transport. And we're very hopeful, Chair, that the growth will be the same for the Kangaroo Point Bridge and its supporting network. We know that it's not just investment in big infrastructure, it's important to invest in the supporting network as well. That's why at each end of this bridge, we are providing new connections that will ensure a safer and more efficient journey for everyone. At Kangaroo Point, a new pedestrian and footpath connecting Main Street and Deakin Street has been constructed through a new underpass via the Story Bridge. Deakin Street has also been realigned to provide a 300-metre pathway and a two-way off-road bike path. All of this will be complemented by a raised wombat crossing on Main Street, Kangaroo Point, that provides direct and dedicated access for pedestrians, cyclists and scooter users to the bridge. This is a step forward towards realising our goal of improving active travel trip times between the eastern suburbs and the CBD. East Brisbane residents will save 15 minutes if walking or 4 minutes if riding when travelling to Eagle Street Pier. And I'm excited to announce, Chair, that one element of this project, Christmas, has come early. It's Christmas in June, not July, because this afternoon we will be opening the Main Street and Deakin Street connection of the Kangaroo Point Bridge. This is a much better, much safer arrangement than the existing unsafe, narrow underpass, which is very close to the road underneath the Story Bridge. We aren't stopping there either, Chair. We are currently awaiting the state to sign a funding agreement that will connect Kangaroo Point Bridge with the eastern suburbs fully. This will fill in the missing link between Deakin Street and Shaftesbury Avenue. And we very much hope that they will sign that agreement before they go into caretaker mode later this year. All I can say is that we're looking forward to the next few months of the project as we get closer to the opening day.
Councillor Murphy, your time
you very much,
has
Chair.
expired. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Chair. My question is for the Lord Mayor. After years of advocacy from the Greens, you adopted our proposal to build a green bridge connecting West End and Toowong. The delivery of this crucial piece of infrastructure is long overdue.
Councillors.
And your commitment holds immense significance for our community. The West End to Toowong Green Bridge will enable high-density populations of Kurilpa, South Brisbane and West End to access more public transport options like train stations, enable access to shopping centres, enable the use of safe, active transport routes like the Bicentennial Bikeway. For residents of Toowong and Milton, they will be able to access green space, destinations like Davies Park Markets, the Cultural Centre, and allow a safe, active transport route to the Kurilpa Peninsula and beyond. The West End to Toowong Bridge will transform how residents on both sides of the city connect. It will undoubtedly reduce car usage and congestion on Montague Road and Coronation Drive. Here it is.
Question. Thank you.
Lord Mayor, can we count on your commitment to deliver these bridges within the next 2 years, or will you continue to disappoint these residents by breaking your promise?
Lord Mayor.
So much going on with that question. So apparently the New Bridges for Brisbane program was an initiative of the Greens. I'm just learning that today because I do remember the former local councillor for the Gabba ward campaigning against the West End to Toowong Bridge because of the loss of green space that would be created in the park down on the river there. Remember that? Yeah. It was against the loss of green space from the bridge landing pylons, piers, in the park. Yep. We all remember that, don't we? Yeah. Campaigning against it. But what's more, I didn't seem to notice a Greens Party commitment to build this bridge in the election. Did anyone hear that? No. There was no commitment. There was apparently several elections ago.
You've asked
several
your question.
Elections ago, apparently. Well, they certainly didn't revitalise that commitment in the recent election. There was no commitment made by the Greens to build that bridge. There were lots of commitments made, but certainly not that one. So the idea that somehow the Greens have been champions for this project is absolute ludicrous. It is ludicrous. They have campaigned against it. They have said all types of things about it, but they certainly didn't commit to build the bridge itself.
Point of order, Chair.
Point of order, Councillor Massey.
The question was, Lord Mayor, can we count on your commitment to deliver these green bridges within the next 2 years, or will you continue to disappoint these residents?
Thank you, Councillor Massey, and the Lord Mayor is still answering the question. I ask all councillors to please remain quiet while he does.
Thank you. I can confirm exactly what my commitment is in relation to new bridges. My commitment is that we will proceed with purchasing the land for the West End to Toowong Bridge. And so that process is underway. Funding has been set aside for that purpose, and I understand we're waiting for gazettal. Is that correct? So that gazettal process happens through the state. So we have taken the steps to secure the landing site on what was known as the former ABC site. We have a landing site on the other side, which is opposed by the Greens. It's in the park. Well, it is true. It is true. Former Councillor Shree stood in this place and said he was against the loss of green space that would be created by the building of a bridge in this location. I remember it very clearly, and we can, if you like, dig up the records. So there's a long list of records that former Councillor Shree added to. But what we have committed to is that we would go to the Infrastructure Australia and make the case for further investment of federal and state funds in these important projects. We committed that we would invest up to $550 million over 10 years in building new bridges. We have the first one already open at Breakfast Creek. The second one is expected to open imminently, as Councillor Murphy was just talking about. Our commitment is very clear to progressing these projects. We have allocated the funds to purchase the land on the Toowong side of the river, but it was always the case from day one. It was made very clear from day one that we would need investment from other levels of government. We are grateful for the investment of more than $60 million from the federal government in the Kangaroo Point Bridge, and so they have made that investment. They are excited about the bridge opening. Councillor Murphy wants to throw a party for the Prime Minister to attend when the bridge opens. The price keeps going up because we need to make it appropriate for a Prime Minister to be there. Him and the Minister can take 2 private jets separately to attend that, I'm sure, but it won't be a case of the urn and the milk arrowroots, as you've said. We need an appropriate celebration of the federal government's commitment in this project. We'll be making sure that the community is involved and they enjoy that celebration. But the point is this. For further bridges to be built, we will need contributions from the other levels of government. Now, that could be the federal government making a contribution, it could be the state government making a contribution, or it could be both. But we have made that very clear, and that's what will need to happen to progress this program. Because we have certainly done...
Lord Mayor, your time has expired. Further questions? Councillor Dixon.
My question is to the Chair of the Economic Development, Nighttime Economy and the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games Committee, Councillor Adams. Deputy Mayor, recent news reports show that the Brisbane businesses are doing it tough. Can you please update the Chamber on what the Shrinner Council is doing to support local businesses through these tough economic times?
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Councillor Dixon, because we do know our small businesses, our local small businesses are doing it tough right now. There is a raft of unprecedented challenges amid a cost of living crisis and mounting costs of doing businesses, creating a perfect storm of financial strain. This is being felt right across the board, but it's particularly those labour-intensive industries like construction, retail and hospitality that are feeling it the most right now. We all know the cost of building has never been higher, and these construction companies have been some of the hardest hits, and we've seen that with the insolvencies across southeast Queensland. Followed closely by hospitality industries who are grappling with tight margins as ingredients, utilities, wages, insurance and rent costs continue to soar. Consumers are tightening their belts and cutting back on discretionary spending, skipping that night out at the local restaurant or those concert tickets, or maybe the weekend away. But everyone is really budget conscious right now, including Brisbane City Council. And we are starting to see the real effects of this as businesses are either having to make some really difficult decisions to keep afloat or even harder decisions to shut up shop. And there's no significant sign of relief coming for small business in the federal budget. And this morning, we see reports in the Queensland Treasurer using weasel words to avoid ruling out any tax changes on businesses and industry. So at a time when every dollar counts, this is the kind of uncertainty that is really creating angst within the business community. Just a few days ago, a Brisbane-based hospitality group ceased trading across 7 businesses, more than 90 staff affected. King Street Bakery in Bowen Hills, Micah Cafe had 2 locations in Newstead and the CBD. A couple of weeks ago, we also saw the iconic music venue, the Zoo, and sister venue Stranded shut the doors after more than 30 years in business. It's been a massive loss for Brisbane and our Fortitude Valley, in particular our live music scene. And the owners are listing a perfect storm of forces which are actually causing these closures. Insurance costs doubling, less people going out to see gigs, sales on alcohol having fallen off a cliff, additional costs on things like security and ID scanners only adding to the expense list to keep doors open. So when every dollar counts, spending tens of thousands of dollars on compulsory ID scanners and extra security is only hurting our nightlife, deterring people from going out and shifting the problem to other areas. It doesn't make sense and hasn't made sense for a long time, and it needs to be reviewed. Last week, I met for the first time this term with our Small Business Roundtable, a group of industry leaders representing everything from hospitality, family and small business, retail, music and entertainment. Each and every one of them are in furious agreement that Brisbane and Queensland are being left behind when it comes to supporting our nighttime economy. Off the back of this, I'll be putting together our first Nighttime Economy Advisory Group to work through exactly what needs to be done to breathe new light into the night. It includes representatives from Brisbane's live music scene, restaurant, bars, retail and commercial property, and key industry advocacy groups. There has to be a balance. Safety is absolutely paramount, but we need to look at other ways that we can create a safe, open and welcoming environment for everyone at all times. More carrot and less stick. In other cities like London and New York and Sydney, they can find ways to keep the city thriving late into the night and keep everyone safe without archaic lockout laws. Surely Brisbane can do this too. Things like extending public transport services late into the night would be a great first step, like we've proposed for Metro. Looking at precinct-wide security and coordinating police services, shifting the onuses off individual businesses. We already work closely with QPS through our City Safe team to help keep people safe and deter antisocial behaviour. We've got the resources in place. More events and activations right through the day and night, creating a positive vibrancy in our precincts, also creates a tremendous impact. But it all starts with a proper independent review. These lockout laws have been in place since 2016, but as yet no commitment from this state government to take a serious look at these issues. Are these safe night precincts actually improving safety or just hurting our nighttime economy? The question needs to be asked. We'll be pulling together a list of recommendations and looking at ways that we can help create both a safe and vibrant nighttime economy right across the city and into the suburbs. It's not a one-size-fits-all, but we know it's not working, and we know that changes need to be made before it's too late and really before we welcome the visitors of the world to our shores in 8 years' time. I look forward to updating the chamber.
Further, Councillor Collier.
Thanks very much, Chair. My question is to the Transport Committee Chair, Councillor Ryan Murphy. Last week, your acting chair for the Transport Committee claimed that the ham-fisted election commitment that is the Fitzgibbon Metro Depot will be underway in the next 3 years. Does this mean that a full business case for the Fitzgibbon depot has been completed?
Councillor Murphy.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you to Councillor Collier for the question. I would just say, firstly, the only party in this chamber that has been committed from the very beginning to the Brisbane Metro has been the LNP. It's been this Lord Mayor, when he was the Transport Chair under the former Mayor Quirk, who progressed Brisbane Metro through the early stages, the detailed design reports, the business cases, the various modelling elements that needed to be done. It was then this Lord Mayor who took Brisbane Metro from the design and consultation process into the construction phase. And it will be this Lord Mayor who, at the end of this year, cuts the ribbon and opens Brisbane Metro, in spite of the massive opposition that has been played by the Labor Party, both in this chamber and at the state government level, in delaying and denying approvals, in going slow, in throwing every single barrier up in our place. But why we know residents want Brisbane Metro to the northern suburbs is because they believe in this solution. They believe that by utilising the infrastructure that we already have in this city, the fantastic busway, the 27 kilometres of busway that we have that is world class and is renowned all around the world by expert transport planners.
Point of order, Councillor Collier.
Point of order, Chair. I just asked on a very specific element of the Metro regarding the Fitzgibbon depot and whether or not a full business case has been completed. It's a pretty simple question. I ask that you draw the Chair back to directly answering the question.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Murphy, can you come back to the question?
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair. What I can say is that you cannot run Brisbane Metro to the northern suburbs if you do not have a depot. And that is what we committed to at the last election, was building a depot for Brisbane Metro that can also be used for zero emissions buses in the meantime at Fitzgibbon, provided that the state can deliver the Northern Transit Way to connect that depot in with the infrastructure. So we've committed to the depot. We can run zero emission buses out of the depot. And then eventually that depot will be ready for Metro services when the Northern Transit Way is complete. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. We could not run Brisbane Metro version 1 without the depot at Rochedale. The depot is a really essential component of the transition. Well, the depot follows what you want to do. And remember, Madam Chair, and I know Councillor Collier wasn't here at the time, but we need to remember that Brisbane Metro actually didn't start as an electric bus project. It started as a light rail project. What we found through that detailed... Well, again, Councillor Collier is laughing. I know she wasn't here. But we did a detailed design report. We know she was spinning for Yvette Darth at the time. 1 moment,
please, Councillor Murphy.
Not very well.
I'm just going to ask all councillors to please be quiet while the chairs are answering questions, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We know that Brisbane Metro started as a light rail project, but when we went through the detailed design process, and the Lord Mayor was a part of that, we found that it was literally not feasible to shut down the busway for 2 years and rebuild Victoria Bridge. Those are the two things that would have been required to do light rail in the city. So,
1 moment, please, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Cassidy, I just asked all councillors to please be quiet while councillors are on their feet speaking. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know they don't want to hear about Brisbane Metro because Brisbane Metro is so popular.
1 moment, please, Councillor Murphy. I will caution you, Councillor Collier. I've asked everybody to stop calling out. Councillor Murphy.
Madam Chair, we know Brisbane Metro is so popular with the residents of Brisbane and they cannot wait to catch it at the end of this year, and they support the extensions to the airport, to the east and to the north. And Brisbane, how many times do Brisbane residents need to reject Labor's plan to can Brisbane Metro? Because that's what you took to the election, Councillor Collier, through you, Madam Chair. Between the Labor Party and the Greens, they took a program to the election of cancelling Brisbane Metro and moving towards, more bus services. Now, none of it was funded, and in fact, if their multi-billion-dollar commitments had actually gotten through the election, what they'd be talking about right now is a 20% rate rise in our city to pay for their unfunded promises. So what we took to the election was a sensible, funded plan to deliver a zero-emissions bus depot, metro depot, in the northern suburbs at Fitzgibbon. We know, and we've costed it in respect of the price of the depot at Rochdale, a very similar amount of money. What we'll need to do is we'll need to see some firm commitments from the state around connecting the Northern Transitway to that depot, because residents in the northern suburbs of our city deserve to have high-frequency, reliable, accessible public transport, just like the residents in the south side will enjoy with Metro by the end of this year.
Councillor Murphy, thank you. And that now ends question time. Lord Mayor, Establishment and Coordination Committee report of the 27th of May 2024.
Madam Chair, I move that the report of the Establishment and Coordination Committee meeting held on Monday, 27th of May 2024 be adopted.
Seconded.
It's been moved by the Lord Mayor and seconded by the Deputy Mayor that the report of the Establishment and Coordination Committee meeting dated Monday, 27th of May 2024 be adopted. Lord Mayor.
Point of order.
Point of order, Councillor Johnston.
Yes, Madam Chairman. I'm seeking further information about item B with respect to the contracts and tendering report on page 6, and that is item number 3, contemporary cost model consultancy services. It's very unclear what that is, and can you provide additional information to us about what that contract for $1 million is for?
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. The Lord Mayor may address that during his report. Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Before I go on, the Finance Chair will address that particular question in her response today. As I always do, I wanted to update you on the lighting up of council assets. Last night, our assets were lit up in blue, white and green to recognise Mabo Day. On the 3rd of June 1992, the High Court of Australia handed down a landmark decision in the Mabo case, overturning the concept of terra nullius, land belonging to no one, and the decision paved the way for the Native Title Act in 1993. And so that was last night, or yesterday was Mabo Day, and the assets were lit up in the colours of the Torres Strait Island flag. Tonight, all of our assets will be lit up in red to support Hemochromatosis Week. Hemochromatosis is an overload of iron in the body which can cause cancer, arthritis and diabetes. 1 in 7 Australians carry the gene which causes this disease. On Wednesday night, all our assets will be lit up in maroon for Game 1 of State of Origin. Queensland gunning for the hat-trick this series after our back-to-back wins in 2022 and 2023. The first game of the series will be played in Sydney. On Thursday, all our assets will be lit up again in maroon for Queensland Day, and this Thursday marks 165 years since Queensland separated from New South Wales as its own independent colony in 1859. On Friday, all our assets will be lit up in green to support Go Green for Eco Marines. The Eco Marines Foundation educate young people and businesses on the impacts of daily activities on our local environments and waterways, and the light up supports their efforts in this respect. On Saturday night, all our assets will be lit up in teal for 2 different causes: Myasthenia Gravis Awareness Month and Tourette's Syndrome Awareness Week. Myasthenia gravis is an autoimmune disease which cripples the communication between nerves and muscles, resulting in those muscles becoming weak and breaking down. And Tourette's Syndrome Awareness Week raises awareness about the disease Tourette's, which affects around 1 in 100 people in Australia. Finally, on Sunday night, our assets will be lit up in purple to support hydradenitis Supra Ativa Awareness Week. That is a tricky one, which is an inflammatory skin condition which causes small painful lumps to form under the skin. On other matters, negotiations are continuing between Brisbane City Council and Transport and Main Roads in the state government for a new deal for public transport in Brisbane. We know that the population is growing. We know that the demand for public transport services is growing. We know that we have to get people onto public transport to deal with the traffic congestion issues our region faces. And we know that Council has been doing the heavy lifting when it comes to public transport in the city. Our bus network carries 2/3 of all passengers in South East Queensland, and we have been year in, year out, increasing our investment in that bus network well over and above inflation, double digits and more, and we plan to continue increasing our investment well above inflation because we know that this is important for the people of Brisbane, this is important for congestion, this is important for a city as it grows. Now, the cost of running Brisbane buses and ferries has gone up significantly faster than CPI, and it's gone up faster than the growth in state funding. And so we are advocating very strongly for increased state investment in public transport so that we can give the people of Brisbane the services that they deserve in a growing city. Those discussions are going well, but what do we want, Councillor Murphy? Big money. I think we want big money. Now, Minister Mellish is promising big money for intersection upgrades. We hope that he's willing to commit big money for public transport as well. Big money, but we are looking forward to his commitment of increased investment in public transport. Now, we will, as I said, continue to increase our investment year in, year out as we've done. And the increases that we've funded and will fund going forward far outweigh the increases that the state government has put on the table. They've capped their increases to CPI. And in the past as well, they've said, you can run the metro services, you can pay for all of metro, but we'll keep the fare revenue, thank you. Is that a fair deal, Councillor Murphy? That is not a fair deal. Now, unlike some people in this chamber, a lot of people are excited about Brisbane Metro, not only Line 1 and 2 operating later on this year as we're planning, but also future stages of Brisbane Metro. And we don't need a business case to say that a depot is required to run services to the north side. There is no business case required. That is basic fact. You cannot run metro services to the north side of Brisbane without a north side metro depot. I can save everyone the cost of a business case. That is required. And guess what? Is it more cost effective to build something on land that council already owns than to purchase land and then build a depot? Of course it is. I can save you the money on a business case for that too. What we do need though is a commitment from the state government that will see their transitway finished or a busway created as they originally proposed on the north side. And we know that there is a great deal of excitement from Brisbane north side residents about the opportunity for metro services to run to the north side. The Gympie Road corridor is the most congested major corridor in the city, and to have high frequency mass transit services running along that corridor is something that we do not need a business case to show is required. What we need is a commitment from the state government that they will help us make it happen. We are prepared to put in our investment, which is to facilitate the land and our expertise in the construction of the depot, just as we've done in Rochdale. We didn't do a separate business case for the Rochdale depot. We didn't need that because you can't have a metro without a depot. And so while we did a business case for the whole of the metro project, and that business case showed that it was a much better financial investment than Cross River Rail, and in fact any other public transport project of scale in the country, we know that this is a smart investment to make, and it's one that is much needed by the people of Brisbane. And so we're not going to waste money on a study. We're going to put money into public transport. We're going to put money into more metro services for the north side of Brisbane, or facilitating those. And that's what our commitment is. Now, as Councillor Murphy said, we know that the Labor Party wants to cancel Brisbane Metro. They've been against it from the beginning. Why? Because it wasn't their idea. And we know that some people, for political reasons in the state government, have tried to stall and stop this project, but they haven't been successful. They've been successful in stalling it, but they haven't been successful in stopping it, because it is a good project. Not just a good project because we say it's a good project, but because Infrastructure Australia says it's a good project, because advocates like Rail Back on Track say it's a good project, because RACQ says it's a good project, because academics and transport experts say it's a good project. But Councillor Cassidy and Councillor Collier know better than all of those people. They think it should be cancelled and we should go back to just standard buses on congested roads. That is their plan for transport in Brisbane, as far as I can tell. And the Labor state government, you know, when they talked about zero-emission buses and then they decided to buy a whole heap of diesel buses instead, this is where Labor is heading with their transport plan. Not only just more buses on congested road, more diesel buses on congested roads. We're going fully electric. We're going for a mass transit solution with its own dedicated right-of-way, either by a busway or a transitway. That is the future of mass transit and public transport in Brisbane, and particularly the future for the north side that desperately needs a mass transit solution. We're committed to it. And Labor can snipe all they want about this project. Their sniping will be just as effective as the sniping they've done for the last 6 years. 2 elections, it has been rejected by the people of Brisbane because they want real investment and real solutions for public transport, not sniping against a project which is accepted by Infrastructure Australia, the federal government, even the state government now, RACQ, Rail Back on Track, and pretty much any other transport expert
Lord Mayor,
you can
your
ask.
time has expired.
Move for it.
Seconded.
It's been moved for an extension by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Dixon. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Lord Mayor.
But, Madam Chair, we won't be deterred by negativity. We won't stop investing in better and more public transport, and we look forward to getting a new deal with the state government for public transport in Brisbane to take us forward. These contracts are genuinely important negotiations because they determine whether the people of Brisbane get more and better services. They determine whether Metro can be expanded and rolled out as we have planned. And just remember, this contract negotiation was a requirement of the state government. In their Metro approval, they said, before Metro can start, we must negotiate and sign a new contract for public transport in Brisbane. So this is not just about Metro, it's about all Brisbane City Council bus and transport services, and we look forward to getting a good deal for the people of Brisbane so we can deliver more for the people of Brisbane. The items in front of us, item A is the street naming policy. This was a policy first adopted by Council in the 1980s. Obviously, there's a few things that have changed since then. One of the things that this policy deals with in particular is that there has been an increase in private roads being established. Now, those private roads may be in sort of body corporate scheme areas or estates where it's not a council-owned road, but it is a road nonetheless. And this particular policy deals with the challenges that delivery agencies, utility service providers have when it comes to delivering to private roads. And so this deals with that issue. It's been an outstanding issue for a little while and obviously getting more and more of a concern over time. So we're updating the policy for that purpose. Additionally, the current policy doesn't allow for the naming of roads within 5 kilometres of an existing or similar sounding name. A road of an existing or similar sounding name. And so, given the modern mapping tools, this is no longer the same type of issue it has been in the past. and so we're allowing some more flexibility when it comes to the naming of roads within that 5-kilometre precinct. I think these changes should be largely uncontroversial and practical and help in small ways improve the situation. Item B is the contracts and tendering report for April 2024. 7 out of the 8 contracts are being awarded to local suppliers, being 87% of the contracts. So far, financial year to date, 87% of all contracts have been awarded to local suppliers across the entire year, which is a total spend of $1.37 billion with local contractors. And that is a really good outcome. I'm very proud that this administration introduced the very first local buy policy, and month in, month out, that continues to support local business in this way and local jobs. Some of the contracts in front of us include the voluntary home buyback package number 19 for either demolition or relocation of flood-affected houses as they come on board with the voluntary home buyback package. It includes stormwater pipe cleaning and surveying and cleaning of the stormwater gullies. There's also a consultancy to support the delivery of Council's updated enterprise resource planning system. So the ERP is at the moment a SAP program, but obviously that's a system which we're in the process of updating, and there's work that needs to be done in preparation for that. Finally, at item C is a submission for the sale of land for overdue rates. Now, this is the first time that Council has proposed the sale of land for overdue rates since Lamb House was proposed for sale in 2020. Councillors will have seen just recently the result there. We saw that there was an important heritage house in Kangaroo Point, which unfortunately was in an increasing state of disrepair, and there was a real risk of that house being lost either through storm damage or maybe vandalism, but also there was a significant outstanding rates bill on that property. The result of the sale of that property has been that a new owner has purchased the property, has renovated it into the wonderful character or heritage home that it once was. The ABC recently created a documentary on this project, and we should all be proud as a council that we have, through our actions, not only recovered unpaid rates, but helped to save an important part of Brisbane's heritage through that. Now, what we have here is a number of properties that have had overdue rates for a significant period of time. And so while this list coming through may have been a surprise for some councillors, it certainly is not a surprise for the owners of these properties, because under our policy, we don't move forward in a way like this generally unless rates have been outstanding for more than 3 years. In the case of vacant land or commercial land, we don't move forward unless there is a judgment order against the owner and unless the rates have been outstanding for more than a year. There has been every effort made to facilitate payment plans for these outstanding rates. There has been every effort made to keep in contact with the owners of these properties, but unfortunately, time and time again, we have seen these properties falling further and further behind, and it is not fair on the people of Brisbane who do pay their rates. You know, we understand that with cost of living pressures and the bills mounting up, it can be challenging, which is why, as a general course of business, we offer payment plans to people who are struggling to pay their rates. This is not that. This is situations that evolved over many, many years. And in fact, if you have a look in the submission, it's detailed that some of these properties have had outstanding rates since 2016. So this is not a recent cost of living thing that we're talking about. This is a long-term challenge that we've been trying to deal with. We've been fair and reasonable. We've offered payment plans. We've made every reasonable effort to make sure that the owners can pay their rates. And unfortunately, it has come to the point where we've had to move to take this action. But what I can tell you, though, is the experience in the past where we've brought through these submissions and moved forward, only 1 in 10 properties has ever actually been sold. In fact, less than 1 in 10 properties. So when we get to this point, usually what happens is the rates are paid. So in 9 out of 10 cases, the bill is paid, they keep their property and everything's good. In only 1 out of 10 cases are the properties sold. And so that is, if you go back all the way to 2002 and look at the records between now and then, there's been 165 properties put forward in this way, and yeah, less than 1 in 10 of them actually ever got sold. So this action will help us recover the rates, and I suspect, in line with the history of this sort of submission, the vast majority of these property owners will pay their rates and will get their account up to date. If it is necessary to sell some of these properties, we will obviously do that, but in most cases in the past that hasn't occurred and it hasn't been necessary, as I said. So out of the 165 properties since 2002 that have been listed in this way, only 12 sales have ever occurred. And I mentioned one before, which was Lamb House. So obviously we're moving forward with this, and in essence, the essential gist of this submission is one of fairness to other ratepayers who are diligently paying their rates, even in times of pressure as they are at the moment. So it's not fair on the ratepayers that are paying their rates faithfully that people can go for long periods of time and simply not pay their rates. Obviously, rates are the essential funding mechanism for so many of the things that we do, and whether it's the maintenance that occurs, mowing of the parks, fixing the footpaths and roads, all of these things are contributed to by rates, and it is important that people contribute their fair share. So we're moving forward with this submission. We do hope that the bills will be settled before any sale has to occur, but
Lord
obviously
Mayor, your
this
time has expired.
I'm finished.
Thank you. Is there any debate? Councillor Cassidy.
Thanks, Chair. Rise to speak on all of these items and ask that item B be taken seriatim for voting, please.
So just item B.
Yeah, item B, thanks. Seriatim for voting, yeah.
Yep.
So starting on item A, we acknowledge and accept the importance of updating this policy. AP 153, the street naming policy, as we've heard, was first developed in 1981, and the technology that council uses for mapping the density of suburbs, decreasing vacant land, of course, almost none. It's a little bit still being developed with new streets and new streets being named in my area, in Boondall and Tagan particularly. I know quite a bit happening out of Pilar at the moment, but that has reduced dramatically since 1981, so we do accept that this is appropriate, the policy that does adapt to meet these changes. And it's important to note the consideration of emergency services access in updating this policy as well. There's some more work to be done in terms of the management of streets, street widths, parking requirements and access requirements in new developments as well. We've had situations in Tagan particularly where a year after the finalisation of a new development, low density housing development, that entire sides of newly named streets had to have yellow lines painted down the entirety because emergency services vehicles, as well as garbage services and other services, couldn't access those properties. So we support that aspect particularly, and think council needs to do more work in terms of managing that aspect of development. And we note that the policy is also including an item to rename the term allotment numbering because of the huge increase in subdivisions and allotments across the city as well. So while not a lot of new land to develop, awful lot as well, subdivisions occurring and different lots being split, whether looking at one of them just now in Boonall, 1 into 2, and that's happening quite regularly as well, so we understand the policy does need to include that. So we accept and support that item before us today. On clause B, I'm also very interested to hear, obviously I won't be able to make comments after we hear the information that Councillor Johnston has requested. I certainly won't, and I'm sure Councillor Cunningham will be up next to speak in terms of that contract, a very interesting contract. I'll get to that one shortly. The first one that stood out to me was the drainage contracts, the ones for the excavation and CCTV work for drainage, our drainage system. These are good contracts. It's work that needs to be done, and one that is on balance better done by external contractors and experts in the field. We accept that. However, I know from speaking to lots of people in my community and right around Brisbane that they certainly have a view that more work needs to be done when it comes to maintaining our drainage systems, more investment in these excavation contracts, more investment in upgrading our existing drainage and investing in new drainage. This is the most basic of services, maintaining the drainage system that we currently have. But it's also one of the first things that falls on the cutting block, on the chopping block, when this Schrinner LNP administration seeks what they call, and I quote, sensible savings. That's code for cuts. They're certainly, as we've heard today, not looking at making any savings when it comes to overseas travel, not looking to make any savings when it comes to bridge opening parties, anything like that. But we hear that contract staff, labour hire staff, and basic services are all on the chopping block. We know the drainage system in Brisbane is extremely old, and we also know this because we're at a situation now in 2024, and this has been the case for quite a few years, where this LNP Council spends more money on depreciating existing assets in accounting terms, and in an accounting exercise expends more money depreciating existing assets than investing in new drainage assets. I think that says an awful lot about this LNP administration's commitment to the suburbs of Brisbane. So there's no denying there's an awful lot of maintenance work that needs to be done. You can understand why millions and millions of dollars before us today needs to be spent on stormwater cleaning and pipe surveying. If you're going to do it, make sure you do it properly. These are the services that Council should be investing in, and we should see more of these contracts coming through after the June budget. That's one of our hopes. And you know, we continue to ask the question: how many floods does this city have to go through? How many flooded streets and flooded garages and flooded homes on 50 mils of rain or 70 mils of rain over a weekend have to occur before we see Council get more serious and put more money into this? We know that a lot of localised flooding can be alleviated when drains are clean and clear. It sounds silly having to say that out loud, but my experience lately in this 5 months or so since the start of this year is that a whole lot of that work has become really reactive and not proactive, particularly when we had a stormy season at the start of the year. It has taken in Station Road in Deagon, properties to be flooded 3 or 4 times before one of these services that we're talking about here, one of these pipe cleaning services, was engaged to clean out a simple drain in a simple street, which all of a sudden magically, as if magically, stopped that flooding from occurring from normal storms. So why isn't more of this work done proactively? Why aren't gully traps cleaned more proactively rather than when someone rings the call centre in the middle of a localised flood saying, my garage is flooding right now, and it seems to be all of the debris covering the gully trap across the road? Well, we know why. We do know why. The answer to that question is there's not enough staff and not enough resources within Council to carry out this work on a day-to-day basis. There is work being done, but we know there's many maintenance jobs in suburbs right around Brisbane that are waiting to be completed, and because our council staff are so far behind, because of the lack of resources, those jobs are just exponentially growing now. So what we want to see is more investment in basic services like this as well. Onto the contract that Councillor Johnston raised a concern about, and I certainly have concerns about this one as well, mostly based on the lack of information. Contract number 3. There is only 3 contracts too at the moment. Like, you know, we get 3 items, three very simple items on the ENC agenda after the last month of having just about nothing that this LNP Council are doing. And so the 3rd contract that is with us today is for nearly $1 million, $975,000 being spent on consultancy services. And what we do know, and you know, we sort of get a bit of a taste of the proclivities of this LNP administration based on the answers that the Chair of the Finance Committee and the Lord Mayor have given over the last couple of weeks about how they feel about staff they deem different to permanent staff, contract staff and labour hire staff. Over the last 4 years, more than $200 million has been spent on consultants and a whopping $400 million spent on labour hire. Wow. We heard from Councillor Cunningham today that if that work is ongoing and basic work, it should be done in-house, which completely contradicts what the Lord Mayor has consistently said over the last couple of years, which is that he no longer believes that he just, you know, thinks if it's a cheaper contract, then he's just going to award it. But it turns out it's not in the long run. Turns out these contracts are never actually cheaper in the long run. And what we now see is 20% of council's funding going towards external contracts, and so much of that is on basic work. And when, like the example I just gave in terms of proactive maintenance on our drainage assets isn't done in-house on time by an internal workforce, external contractors being paid at a premium have to be engaged because that work has to be done out of hours or for a special project, and it's not basic ongoing work for those contractors, it's extra work. So it ultimately costs ratepayers an awful lot more. So the contract before us today for nearly $1 million is for contemporary cost model consultancy services from a group called the Boston Consulting Group, and they describe themselves as a top consulting firm helping clients with total transformation driving complex change. Significant workplace change as a specialisation they have. So the way we see it, it could be one of 2 things, and we certainly want to find out a little bit more information before we vote on this. Is this Brisbane City Council staff being overwhelmed and needing guidance because of the Lord Mayor's cuts and changes? Or is this work that council is preparing for even more shake-ups across council under this LNP administration? Either way, this confirms the administration aren't interested in protecting internal staff and secure jobs. They're spending millions outsourcing basic work.
Councillor Cassidy, your time has expired. Further speakers? Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise to speak on item A, AP 153, the council street naming policy. And as everybody in this chamber would be aware, Brisbane is now largely an infill city, though there's certainly some subdivision happening a bit further out. I think we looked at one recently in Councillor Davis's ward, and I know that there's some subdivision out in Pallara as well. So certainly there is still an amount of subdivision occurring. Now, historically, Brisbane has been a city that's grown through new subdivisions, and obviously through that process, new streets were named. We are, however, increasingly seeing infill development and redevelopment in inner city precincts. However, there is still subdivision occurring across the city, and in those locations particularly we are seeing new roads being provided by developers, and there's also potential for new roads to emerge in some of our suburban renewal precincts. As noted earlier, this particular policy, AP 153, was created in, I think, 1981. It served us well for a long time. However, the world has moved along, and with residents now using online shopping, platforms and the associated couriers and meal delivery services and even NDIS and care services. All this means is there's a lot more private operators coming to homes where street naming and street numbering is relevant. I think the Lord Mayor touched upon the fact that also our waste collection services and emergency services obviously need to be able to quickly locate addresses and street numbers. So it has an important role to play, and obviously it's important for us to do this update. So the policy update that is before us today incorporates the Australian standard approach to both road naming and street numbering appropriate for our infill city. The updated policy also incorporates the Chapter 6 Streets, Bridges, Culverts, etc. local law section on street numbering in the one easy-to-follow policy for applicants creating new streets and new house numbers as we continue to improve housing supply in our city. Council approved street names and street numbers through the planned sealing stage as new housing is delivered and through the plan registration process and council systems. These addresses become live in all manner of council geospatial systems and online mapping such as Google Maps. I'm pleased to recommend this policy update to the Chamber today to modernise council's approach to street naming and numbering fit for our city. Thank you.
Further speakers? Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to speak briefly on the contracts for stormwater infrastructure cleaning. Now, Council maintains over 3,700 kilometres of underground drainage infrastructure, over 100,000 gully inlets and gully baskets, and multiple stormwater treatment assets and backflow devices throughout Brisbane. Obviously, to ensure that Council's stormwater infrastructure and assets are performed as designed, it requires an ongoing maintenance and regular checking of those services. So before us today, we've actually got 3 programs of work: planned and reactive cleaning of stormwater drainage infrastructure and gully baskets, closed circuit television inspection to locate blockages and assess the structural condition of stormwater pipes, and also vacuum excavation. So this is in the event of construction, excavating around the roots of significant trees, and geotechnical ground condition work. So this is a really important program of work. So I'm not quite sure where Cassidy was going, Councillor Cassidy, sorry, through you, Chair, was going in regards to the fact that he was very happy to see it happen, but it's never enough. It's never enough. So I think it's fantastic the work that we are doing here, and I think it's a very important program of work, so I recommend it to the Chamber.
Further speakers? Councillor Cunningham.
Sorry, my mic wasn't on there. Sorry. Thanks, Madam Chair. First to item C. We have an extremely compassionate approach to rates debt management here in Brisbane City Council. We want to work with residents experiencing hardship, and we can work with residents to set up sustainable payment plans. We offer discounts to encourage on-time payment, and we have by far the most generous pensioner rebate scheme. We also have the cheapest residential rates in South East Queensland, something that we're very proud of. What we have in the case of the properties on the sales list this afternoon is situations where an owner's whereabouts are unknown, deceased estates where the beneficiary has not maintained rates payments, and where there have been no responses to council contacts or payments made in several years. When it comes to the sale of properties with overdue rates, this is not something we've traditionally done often, and it is only used as a very last resort where, after repeated attempts and significant legal processes, we were unable to set a path which would see the debt repaid. If you don't pay your car registration and are caught driving it, significant fines apply. And if caught multiple times, the state government can impound the vehicle. If your utility bills are unpaid for some time, you can be disconnected. In the case of local governments, though, the Queensland Government has determined that our last result is to sell a property to recover any unpaid rates and charges. There are many councillors in this chamber who were not here the last time a list of properties was brought through, and that includes myself. It is important context to know that since 2002, Council has approved 12 sales lists consisting of 165 properties. As the Lord Mayor alluded to earlier, of these 165 properties, only 7% proceeded to sale at auction. 93% of properties approved for sale indeed had their rates accounts paid prior to the auction. And ultimately, that's what this is about. It's not about selling homes, it's about recovering debts on behalf of other ratepayers. This is about fairness for the ratepayers who are doing the right thing in Brisbane. Not just for those who pay on time consistently, but especially for those doing it tough, those who talk to Council about what issues they might be having and set up a payment plan in agreement with Council to manage the issue. It is not the situation of properties before us. That is not the situation of the properties before us today, though, Mr. Chair. On item B, and specifically to contract number 3, this is related to our Enterprise Resource Planning digital program, which was the topic of our committee presentation last week, actually, Mr. Chair, you will recall it. Specifically, the contract provides independent consultancy advising on cost models, business and operating models to assist Council with a significant upgrade of its enterprise resource planning design and associated systems. Council is reviewing aspects of its enterprise design to support our new ERP S4HANA implementation, which we've spoken about before. The consultancy will provide best practice business model recommendations, which will be used to ensure that the foundational ERP enterprise design supports all the capabilities that are planned to be deployed and means that we can realise the full benefits of the SAP implementation. So in summary, Mr. Chair, this work is simply advising our team who is implementing this fundamental and critical ERP project for Council, and I commend it to the Chamber.
Any further debate? Councillor Johnston.
Just very briefly on the 3 items before us today. Firstly, with respect to the street naming policy, I appreciate that an update is required. However, I do not support the change in AP 153, which allows roads of the same or a similar name to be named the same within 5 kilometres. I think this is going to cause more problems. It's already problematic when you have 2 streets with the same name that are in the same kind of geographic area, but essentially now you can have them in the same suburb, which is just going to cause a lot of problems. So I think that's a retrograde step in this. Otherwise, I certainly understand the policy needs to be updated. Secondly, with respects to the contract and tendering report and the information provided by Councillor Cunningham, so a huge international consultancy firm is being paid $1 million by Council to provide some advice. That's what's happening. Now, Councillor Cunningham says that's important advice and that Council needs it. The things I think are important are fixing footpaths, fixing roads, making sure we fund the upgrade of community facilities. I'm not sure why we have to pay consultants $1 million for a little bit of advice about how this council is run. This council has highly paid executives who are highly qualified, and this kind of expertise should be available within council to undertake the project. It's all very strange. Enterprise resource design, SAP, I mean, this is a black hole of funding goes into these projects to start with. So I just think this money can be better spent rather than paying a big international consultancy $1 million to do work that council should be able to do itself. And finally, with respect to item 3, the sale of land for overdue rates, I have been here when these have been done. I do have concerns with some of the sales. In particular, there are some that obviously, where people can't be contacted, there's a fairly serious problem and we need to do that. But the sad part of this process is, as Councillor Cunningham has outlined, the purpose of this is to force people to pay their rates. But the mechanism to do so is to say we apply to the courts to sell their homes. Now, it's completely different to an energy company saying they're going to turn off the electricity. It's not like they're going to remove all electrical fittings from someone's home or take the power poles out so that people can't do it. But this is a very different thing. And there are some of these, I won't go into detail, but there are some of these that I think are quite problematic. Yeah, borderline, thank you, that's a good word. So I have some concerns with what is proposed here today. This is a blunt instrument. It's not, as Councillor Cunningham outlined, a state government decision. This is a council decision. This is why it's being brought forward to council today. So I have some real concerns about some of these sales, so I don't support this.
Any further debate? Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Thank you to all councillors who contributed to that debate. There's been some interesting comments from the opposition about contractors, and there were some questions in question time on that as well. And, you know, you would, I guess, believe that from what we've said here that the Labor Party is dead against reducing expenditure on contractors and consultants. But in the recent federal budget, I've got right in front of me a media release from Senator the Honourable Katie Gallagher, the Finance Minister, and the media release is titled "Labor to Achieve an Additional $1 billion in Savings from Consultants and Contractors." The Albanese government will deliver a further $1 billion in savings from reducing spending on consultants, contractors and labour hire in the 2024-25 budget. They say this saving is in addition to the $3 billion in savings from reducing spending on external labour that the government delivered in the 2022-23 budget, bringing the total savings delivered to $4 billion. So they say one thing here in the council chamber, but in government, they've actually slashed $4 billion out of consultancies and contractors. And so I wonder if the federal government shows respect to contractors, using the same logic that we see at play here. The council opposition is saying that this is somehow an indication of a lack of respect, yet they're turning a blind eye to the $4 billion cut to consultants and contractors at the federal government level. And I wonder what that says about respect. And so what we see here is not a well thought through position from the opposition. The reality is when you want to deliver savings for the people of Brisbane and keep rates and rents low, you have some decisions to make on how to sensibly do that. And we've been quite clear. The permanent staff of council have nothing to be concerned about, and we will find sensible savings in a way that doesn't impact on those permanent staff of council. We've made that clear from the beginning and we remain committed to that. And you know, as we go through future EBA negotiations as well, we want to make it clear to our staff that if you are an employee of Brisbane City Council, you're a permanent employee, that we don't want to see the same situation as up at George Street or down in Canberra where forced redundancies can be brought in. We don't want to see that situation. We are one of the last remaining governments anywhere that has a policy of no forced redundancies. We believe absolutely that that should be protected, and we've made that clear year in, year out through former EBA negotiations. We will make that clear going forward, and that sets us apart as an employer of choice that looks after its employees and values and respects its employees, and we are absolutely committed to that. And so whatever the opposition might say in here, the reality is our record shows that we do value and respect our employees, and the opposition's comments in this chamber are not reflected by the actions at the state and federal government level when they are in government. They're quite happy to offer forced redundancies for staff at the state level and the federal level, but we do not do that, and we've made it clear that we won't do that. And so, look, just one other thing, I neglected to mention this earlier, but just wanted to put on the record some comments that I made last week and to clarify those comments, particularly in relation to the third budget review submission that came through. Now, I mentioned that there was $40 million in Queensland Reconstruction Authority funding that hadn't been approved, and a result that the money was going to be removed from the budget. Now, while it's true that some of this money is being removed, not all of it is being removed permanently, and that some is being carried over to future years. And so that amount is approximately $28.4 million, which is being carried over. But I can confirm that overall we applied for $165 million in funding through the QRA, and of that, $72 million has not been approved. And so the reality is that many of the submissions that we put in for funding were not approved by the QRA. Some of that funding has been removed permanently from the budget because it has not been approved by the QRA, and also some of that funding has been moved forward to a future year, and we hope we do get that funding, but obviously time will tell. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Now we will put the item A and C of the ENC report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. No. The ayes have it. And now we put item B of the ENC report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against say no. No. The ayes have it.
Division.
Division.
Yeah, division is being called by Councillor Cassidy and Councillor Collier. Councillors, ayes to my right, noes to my left. Please ring the bell. Okay, yep. Clerks, please read the result.
Mr. Deputy Chair, the ayes have it, the voting being 18 in favour and 7 abstentions.
The report's being carried. Yep. Council Landers, Economic Development, Nighttime Economy, and the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games Committee report, please.
Deputy Chair, I move that the report of the Economic Development, Nighttime Economy and the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 28th of May 2024 be adopted.
Second.
It was moved by Council Landers, seconded by Council Toomey, that the report of the Economic Development, Nighttime Economy and the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games Committee meeting dated Tuesday 28th May 2024 be adopted. Council Landers.
Last week we received a presentation from our Manager of Economic Development on the Growing Precincts Together program. The Growing Precincts Together program delivers hands-on support to help promote and activate business precincts. We have over 300 local business precincts in Brisbane, ranging in size from just a few tenancies to a few hundred. This program is all about bringing the businesses together to build a sense of community and develop a shared vision for the precinct. Rosalie Village and Racecourse Road in Ascot were our first 2 pilot precincts, and our second round of pilot precincts are underway in Banyo and Wynnum CBD. It starts with the understand stage, working through various audits and insights from businesses and customers to understand where the opportunities lie and where some improvements could be made. It's a chance to get under the hood of what drives these local precincts, what challenges businesses are facing, and how precincts can grow to attract more visitors. The next step is to engage, bringing the businesses together to run through the findings from customer surveys and precinct audits. It's also an opportunity in some cases for businesses to meet each other for the first time, get to know each other and start to build their business-to-business relationships. This is where it all comes together. There's no single solution, but rather a combination of different support measures that are tailored to suit the needs of each of the businesses and the precinct as a collective. The Precinct Playbook creates a framework of opportunities under key themes: promote, support, refresh and activate. We've seen some fantastic outcomes working with these businesses through one-on-one business coaching, shopfront makeovers and vacant shopfront activations, digital marketing training and precinct promotion campaigns. The last step is the legacy precincts. Our team continues to provide ongoing support to precincts to ensure they continue to thrive. They will have a dedicated business engagement contact, ongoing catch-ups and further support to hold their own events and activations. Deputy Chair, it's a fantastic program bringing together the community and our local businesses to ensure they are receiving the support they need to continue to thrive and grow. I leave further debate to the Chamber.
Any further debate? Councillor Gibney.
Thank you, Chair. Ladies and gentlemen of the Chamber, today I stand before you to thank Brisbane City Council for the Growing Precincts Together initiative, undertaken to support the vibrant Wynnum Town Centre businesses, locally known as the Wynnum CBD. This program stands to support the economical development of our suburban business hubs. Since last year, I have been thankful to be invited to the sessions with the Council Economic Development team through my ongoing engagement with the Wynnum Commerce Inc. I have actively supported the Wynnum business owners with this project. Sam and her team have specifically crafted a program based on feedback from the business owners, and in Wynnum, this program offers one-on-one business coaching sessions that have been tailored to address the specific needs of our area. They offer up to 10 hours of personalised guidance. Additionally, food-based businesses have been provided with specialised support across various crucial areas such as business strategy, menu optimisation and staff management. Recognising the importance of visual merchandising and enhancing the retail experience, we are exploring options to deliver virtual merchandising workshops. These workshops aim to empower businesses within the Wynnum precinct to refresh their shop fronts and interior displays, ultimately aiming to boost sales and customer engagement. Following the success of Wynnum's regular Up Late events, which are offered on Friday nights throughout the year, including one this Friday night, if anyone wants to come to Wynnum for Up Late, Council will be funding 2 further events that will activate our precinct. These events aim to draw visitors from neighbouring areas, providing local businesses with opportunities to showcase their offerings and attract new customers. As we look ahead, our focus remains on continued support of the Wynnum Town Centre and the other legacy precincts. We will continue to engage with businesses, provide resources through the Precinct Playbook and focus on online marketing, including a website refresh and fostering connections through the Coffee Connect that we've done previously. Amanda Munn, who is the owner of local homewares boutique, Harley Home, has given me her thoughts on the initiative, and I'd like to share them with the Chamber. We've been so pleased to see the Precincts project continue to develop and gain traction. Retail is extremely challenging at the moment, so additional supports and funding from Council has been extremely welcome. As foot traffic and general consumer confidence continues to drop, support like this from Council will be vital for ensuring that smaller strips and precincts like ours will survive this challenging business environment. In conclusion, it's initiatives like this one that has been outlined today that will absolutely support our Wynnum CBD. Together, we will continue to cultivate thriving precincts that serve as the heart and soul of our community. Thank you.
Further debate. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Chair. I'll rise just briefly to speak on this item. As mentioned earlier, the Growing Precincts Together program encourages residents and local businesses to share their thoughts about local suburban precincts. Through this program, hands-on support is provided to businesses. Additionally, Council works with the businesses to better understand the precinct's unique offerings, identify opportunities for growth and identify future opportunities for the precinct. One of the precincts identified in the 23-24 financial year is Banyo Village. Initially, we invited businesses, workers and customers to share their thoughts about the precinct in September last year via an online survey. We wanted to hear their thoughts about what they valued the most, what challenges businesses are facing and how the precinct could grow to attract more visitors and achieve business growth. Following this, Banyo businesses were invited to attend an event in October. During this event, the council team were able to share information about, firstly, analysis of the precinct, including business vacancies and business mix, feedback received from the survey earlier in the process, initial ideas and inspiration to promote, activate and refresh the precinct, and also possible support programs for businesses in the precinct. Attendees also had the opportunity to ask questions, network with other business owners and meet with council officers, and I was fortunate to attend a number of the meetings they've held to date. Businesses within the Banyo precinct are also able to apply for a range of free one-on-one business support programs. The diverse suite of programs will support businesses to promote and activate their business with the aim of attracting new visitors to the precinct. During the most recent business meeting held in the precinct in May, it was identified there was a need for a digital presence for the businesses within the village. A logo has recently been developed and agreed for the Banyo Village. This will now be used to develop a website for the village businesses, and that will be supported by a 6-month media strategy. Mr Deputy Chair, I look forward to continuing to work with Council's Economic Growth and Activation team to deliver initiatives and actions that promote, support, refresh and activate the Banyo Village. Thank you.
Any further debate? Councillor Linders. Now I put the Economic Development, Nighttime Economy and the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games Committee report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Councillor Murphy, Transport Committee.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. Just before I move to the committee report, I'd just like to talk, I guess, briefly about the bus contract negotiations. And Lord Mayor touched on it.
Councillor Murphy, you have to move the motion first.
Yes, sir. Of course, Chair. I move that the report of the Transport Committee held on Tuesday, the 28th of May, 2024 be adopted.
Seconded.
It was moved by Councillor Murphy, seconded by Councillor Perry, that a report of the Transport Committee meeting dated Tuesday, 28th May 2024 be adopted. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. As I said just before I move to the committee report, I'd like to talk briefly about the bus contract negotiations. And I think Council has heard from the Lord Mayor just then that he is quite optimistic about the way in which negotiations are proceeding now, having now been effectively negotiating with them for over a month. He is of the strong belief that things are headed in the right direction, and that is, I think, a good thing. It's a good thing for the people of the City of Brisbane to have the state government and the council at the table talking together about how we can improve public transport for commuters. And so far, I would say we've seen Minister Mellish and his department having been responsive, communicative and collaborative in that approach. We do appreciate that. But what I will say is that we have seen a lot of this before with the department. We have seen collaboration, communication and a really strong working relationship at the officer level. And then we have seen under the previous minister, Minister Bailey, the rug pulled out from underneath council at the last minute. And we've seen a lot of fruitful work and great modelling, a lot of effort put in by our officers, thrown out the door through political interference. And so I'll just flag that Brisbane City Council and this administration is here in the interests of the travelling public in Brisbane. We are absolutely not interested in a political fight with the state government on the eve of their election. We are not. And we would like a deal in the best interests of the ratepayers of this city and the travelling public of this city. However, we are very well prepared to have that fight if that is what the state seeks. And we will not be backing down from this one. We have been here before. As I said, the Lord Mayor can be the optimist here. I'm definitely the pessimist. So we will see where things wash out. But we have, I think, councillors, 12 weeks until the state enters caretaker mode. So we have 12 weeks to strike a deal with the state that has the potential to provide hundreds of millions of dollars in additional funding to Brisbane bus services every year, to provide new routes, to fix bus to rail, to provide collaborative mechanisms with which to continually review and improve the network, to deliver a massive transformation that will be possible through the 50-cent fares, which we welcome and we congratulate them on, but also the opportunity for new services which commence at the end of the year with Brisbane Metro and then into 25-6 with the introduction of cross-river rail services. We are at a great turning point in the history of this city when it comes to public transport. New train stations, new forms of transport with Metro, an entirely refreshed and revisited bus network, but we need the right structure and the right funding in order to be able to deliver that. So, you know, to quote General James Mattis, the state will have no greater friend than council if they choose, but they will have no worse enemy. And we have only a few more weeks to find out which one of those paths they would like to go down. Now, Chair, we had a presentation last week to committee, and the presentation was about active school travel. Now, we received a fantastic update on that. And this is one of the programs that is one of my favourites, Chair. This provides primary schools across the city with a range of free resources and incentives to encourage parents and students to leave their cars at home and travel actively to school. We've had over 175 primary schools in the program, 150,000 students over the last 20 years, and an estimated 11.6 million in health benefits to each of the schools that signs up. So a really great program, and 2023 was one of our best years on record, Chair. We had active travelling in schools rise from 23% to 40%, those schools that participated in the program. We had more than 1,500 students walking to school each week, 1,500 more than we had in 2022. So some really great outcomes. 93% of the schools reported an increase in their physical activity levels. 100% said that it fostered a greater sense of community in their local areas. 85% of parents told us that their child's road safety awareness had markedly improved because of the program. And last year we tried to duplicate the success we'd had with active school travel in kindy active travel. This is a pilot program we undertook in partnership with the state government. Didn't work, Deputy Chair. It did not work. So we had effectively a 0% increase in active travel from parents with toddlers and kindy-age kids at the two schools that participated in the pilot. So I don't think the pilot will be going too much further. The discussion between the state and council is that, you know, our resources are perhaps better spent targeting high schools and, you know, involving them. I think it is just a reality. We have many, you know, working parents in the room here. It's just a reality that for parents of kindy-aged children, where they can't help them to get to their kindy unassisted by themselves, they're going to be using the car, and there's obviously very little impact in us encouraging them to use active travel to get their toddlers to and from kindy, from what we see in the program results so far. So we did choose 2 kindergartens that were serviced by active transport infrastructure in Hanlon Park and in Norman Creek Bikeway, so we tried really hard, but it just didn't work. So we will have more to say about replacement of this program and potential future work that we're going to do with other elements in terms of primary school and high school as we roll out the Safer Schools program in the coming budget, and councillors will have to wait until next week to see how that will go. I'll leave further debate to the chamber. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Strong.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Listen, I rise to speak on this particular item. My ward actually has about 40% now of our primary schools are taking part in active school travel now, and I'm quite proud of that, and the schools that are undertaking that. To mention the Anala State School, Grand Avenue State School, and St. John's Anglican College at Forest Lake Primary. Now, as you say, the program is to encourage parents to drop off their kids at a particular maybe a park or another destination which is close to the school, so that they can actually walk and then try to reduce that congestion that actually has especially when they're being dropped off, and probably more especially when they're being picked up. But as far as the congestion goes, but it's really about dropping off the kids to a destination, a fair distance, a reasonable fair distance from the school, so they can walk and reduce that congestion. Now, in order to do that, of course, you've got to have some footpaths that are actually in good condition. And I did bring up recently in another debate in regards to the Anala State School, who undertook this program earlier this year, and one of their sites was down in Elizabeth Bruce Park, which is in Japonica Street, and I raised it in the chamber here of the really poor construction, or what's left of the construction of the footpaths leading from there up to the school, up Japonica, Biota, and then to Rosemary Street. And of course, I mean, we do even have a program, right, which is Safer Pathways to Schools, right, which we have, and I've been a beneficiary of that as well at the Forest Lake High School this year as well. Now, you know, as far as footpaths go, it's really important that kids are able to walk on a safe footpath undertaking this program. And we found out actually back in 2010, there was about 900 kilometers, or a bit less than 1,000 kilometers of footpaths that were needing repair. And then 2021, we had some figures that had doubled to 2,000. So I don't know what it would be today, you know, 4 years later, but it's important that we do maintain these footpaths so that the kids can actually safely travel. And it's not just the kids, it's also the staff members as well of the school. And as I said at a previous debate, it was really embarrassing to come up Japonica Street and just see how bad it was. It really is bad. And there's been no funding allocated for that I'm aware of. So listen, great program. I support it. I'm sure every councillor in here would love to have all their schools doing it, because it would certainly reduce the complaints that come into the office, especially at the start of the year, where council officers have to go out and start finding people for doing the wrong thing. because there's just not enough space around most of the schools to be able to handle that congestion. So anyways, I just encourage, I hope the Lord Mayor has allocated a lot more funds for reconstruction, because we certainly do need it. We need a lot of new ones, but we need those ones to be maintained as well. Thank you, Chair.
Any further debate? Councillor Murphy? No right of reply? Well, now I'll put the Transport Committee report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Councillor Wines, Brisbane Infrastructure Committee.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I move that the report of the Infrastructure Committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 28th of May, 2024, be adopted.
Seconded, Mr. Deputy Chair.
Yep, it was moved by Councillor Wines, seconded by Councillor Toomey, that the report of the Infrastructure Committee meeting dated Tuesday, 28th May 2024, be adopted. Councillor Wines.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Deputy Chair. The committee last week heard a report that we have during most sessions, the inner city projects construction update. It allows committee members a line of sight on some of the teams inside the TPO branch to see the sorts of things that they consider, the things that are presented, but also the things that are under consideration that that particular team within the branch works on. I think it's a really good opportunity for committee members to see the work that they do, but also an opportunity to consider the context with which we operate and how factors beyond council sometimes influence and affect matters within council. So can I just thank the officers in that particular team for their ongoing work. Can I also recognise the manager, Jamie Mullins, who has been the manager of that team for a long time but has taken up a new opportunity with the Department of Transport and Main Roads, or Queensland Rail. I apologise for forgetting which one, but she's been a wonderful member of the team here in Brisbane City Council, and we wish her all the best. Can I take a moment to also note some other good work by members in our team? We recently received a letter from the Australian Local Government Association thanking our officers for their contribution to both ALGA and the Council of Capital City Lord Mayors. The letter was from Ms Amy Crawford, the CEO of the ALGA, who passed on her thanks, saying that our officers were a wealth of knowledge and she was pleased they were able to donate their time. She advises that without their time and expertise, they would not have been able to complete such a complex project. And it makes me, once again, very proud to have such committed professionals within the Program 2 area. So, as I say, this is a presentation that we consider on a regular basis, on a routine basis, for the benefit of committee members. I trust that any comments will be reflective of that report.
Councillor Dixon.
Point of order, Chair. Chair, I move that Council now adjourn for afternoon tea for 15 minutes, which commences only when all councillors have vacated the chamber and the doors have been locked.
Seconded.
It has been moved by Councillor Dixon, seconded by Councillor Gibney, that the meeting adjourn for a period of 15 minutes, which commences only when all councillors have vacated the chamber and the doors have been closed. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Well, the ayes have it.
Further speakers? Councillor Johnston.
Yes, I rise to speak on the Infrastructure Committee report just briefly. It's been absolutely illuminating to be part of the Infrastructure Committee over the past few weeks. I particularly want to note the significant pattern of behaviour that's been happening with Infrastructure Committee reports that is brought into stark focus by the report before us today. It would seem that Councillor Wines wants to have committee meetings about matters that do not fall within his portfolio. Now, why he's doing this, I'm not entirely sure, but the inner city construction update that we were given covers 4 major projects: Cross River Rail, Brisbane Metro, Queen's Wharf and the Kangaroo Point Bridge. Now, 2 of those projects, the Brisbane Metro and the Kangaroo Point Bridge, are Councillor Murphy's responsibility under the Public and Active Transport Committee. Now, I know this because when I've asked questions about the Metro in Councillor Wines' committee, he says, no, it's not his responsibility. But it's very interesting when it comes to filling his time as the Infrastructure Committee Chair, instead of talking about projects in his own area, he's talking about projects in Councillor Murphy's portfolio. But it gets better, because then we got a presentation about the Cross River Rail project, the state government, and what was happening with that project. And that's obviously a state government project, not a council project. Then we got a project, an update about the Queen's Wharf project, which is a private development in the city of a casino. Now, of course, these projects do have an impact on the cityscape, right? And in asking questions during the committee last week, I asked, the only thing that council does with respect to these projects is largely around road closures. So I asked the question about how many road closures had council approved, as part of these 4 projects, because that's the only aspect of these 4 projects that falls into Councillor Wines' portfolio. And I received a response earlier this morning from the manager saying that it was too hard to answer my question about the number of road closures for these projects because it required too much work. Now, the perverse situation with this is that's the only part of the presentation that actually was relevant to the committee before us, and that was too hard for council to provide the information about the number of road closures that had been issued and whether or not any road closures were refused. But of course, Councillor Wines was more than happy to have the manager wax lyrical about state government projects, private property projects, and projects being done in Councillor Murphy's portfolio. Next week's committee presentation is even better. So I just am wondering what's the point of Councillor Wines and the point of the Infrastructure Committee, because if this committee cannot deal with issues within the portfolio, in the committee designed to discuss issues about the portfolio, then what's its purpose? Why is it that Councillor Wines has been unable for several weeks to bring forward projects that are Infrastructure Committee and portfolio related? We understand that probably a lot of them have been cut. Now, we know that. We're at the end of the financial year, and Councillor Wines has said repeatedly in answer to Councillor Strunk's questions about this, that there will be some rollovers, which are essentially cuts, projects that were announced to be delivered this year that won't be, and that will be re-announced to be delivered next year, which probably won't be delivered then either. We don't know how many they are, but I suspect because Councillor Wines can't find enough projects in his portfolio to talk about, there may be quite a few. But it was very informative to hear about the other levels of government and their projects, the private sector and their projects, and Councillor Murphy's projects in the Public and Active Transport Committee. All I would suggest is that the Infrastructure Committee actually discusses and receives presentations on matters that are relevant to the Infrastructure Committee going forward. That would be helpful.
Further speakers? Councillor Wines. We'll now move the report. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Councillor Allen, City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the report of the City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 28th of May 2024 be adopted.
Seconded.
It has been moved by Councillor Allen and seconded by Councillor Wolfe that the report of the City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee meeting dated Tuesday, 28th of May 2024 be adopted. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last week we had a presentation on plan sealing in Brisbane. A survey plan must be lodged with Council for approval at the completion of a subdivision, multiple dwelling or warehouse development where individual lots or units are to be on-sold. So this is effectively the final step in the process. You know, it sort of starts at the beginning with a development application, construction, and then at the end the plan sealing process, which then allows the property to be passed on to the eventual owners. As I sort of noted, this tends to be a little bit forgotten. The development assessment process, or the development application assessment process, gets most of the focus, but nonetheless, plan sealing is very important. And plan sealing creates new land titles, easements, covenants, and the transfer of land to council for parks, drainage or road widening. Plan sealing ensures quality assurance and development outcomes are delivered. The Building and Construction Management Team are responsible for endorsing the survey plan, which is also known as plan sealing, once a development is finalised. Additionally, BCMT are involved in development approvals, operational works and the construction stages. In 2023, the Shrinner Council completed 791 reactive inspections, 2,065 sealed units, 593 desktop inspections, 1,351 proactive inspections, 1,782 sealed lots and 588 survey plans were endorsed. BCMT also offer plan sealing pre-lodgement services and can provide advice on conditions compliance, documentation requirements, bonding of uncompleted works, and then questions relating to endorsement of standard format, building format and volumetric survey plans. Plan sealing is legislated by the Planning Act 2016, Schedule 18 of the Planning Regulation 2017 and the Body Corporate and Community Management Act 1997. This ensures survey plans are consistent with approved drawings, community management statements comply with the requirements of the development approval, conditions required to be complied with prior to plan sealing are met, development is connected to urban utilities infrastructure networks, infrastructure charges and rates are paid, allocation of house numbering, we spoke about that earlier, and assessment and approval of street names. Endorsed survey plans are submitted to Titles Queensland, who undertake the registration of the lots. Upon registration, the Queensland Government will issue the title under the Land Title Act 1994. Developers can then complete settlement of the individual lots. Of particular note are two developments in Toowong that the Building and Construction Management Team worked hard to manage matters arising during the building process to ensure plan sealing could be endorsed, and specifically they were 36 Sylvan Road, Toowong, which was a development of 63 units where the survey plan was endorsed in April 2023, and another one at 3 Archer Street, Toowong, where 62 units were completed and the survey plan was endorsed in March 2023. Both developments are excellent examples of how the Shrinner Council's Building and Construction Management Team manage the building process so that the survey plans can be endorsed and more housing delivered in Brisbane. I'll leave further debate to the chamber.
Further speakers? No further speakers. We'll now move the report. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Councillor Davis, Environment, Parks and Sustainability Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I move that the report of the Environment, Parks and Sustainability Committee meeting of Tuesday, 28 May 2024 be adopted.
Seconded.
It has been moved by Councillor Davis and seconded by Councillor Marx that the report of the Environment, Parks and Sustainability Committee meeting dated Tuesday, 28 May 2024 be adopted. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last week's committee presentation was on smart sensors, not to be confused with smart water meters. This is brand new technology which we've undertaken a pilot trial to help us monitor flooding in Brisbane. The sensors capture real-time creek water height and rainfall data to support our existing water level monitoring using a radio frequency network to transmit data back to the Floodwise system. As part of the pilot, a total of 53 sensors were installed in and around smaller creeks and tributaries across Brisbane to complement the existing 96 hydrometric telemetry gauges across our catchments. This is very much an emerging technology, and there were some learnings about how it can be best employed to support the work that we do, but what is also exciting is that it's a very cost-effective measure also. It was a great presentation which provided committee members with another example of the very diverse nature of the work in Program 3 and our commitment to embracing innovation to deliver better services for residents. Madam Chair, We also had one petition, and I'll leave further debate to the chamber. Thank you.
Further speakers? Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to speak briefly on smart centres, item A on this committee report. Acknowledging that it was wonderful to hear about this really great trial of new technology. Obviously, learnings to be made. It's the 53 low-cost sensors that were in place. What I will speak on briefly is about the fact that, like, the trial was fantastic, the data was good that came from it, even though there were learnings. But we did find out during the presentation that this low-frequency information depends on the hubs for the accuracy of the information. And there are 5 hubs where the sensors directly go for their information to. The closer to the hub, the stronger the signal, the more efficient the data is. And so it was really interesting to note, as supportive I am of this new technology and hoping to see what other rollouts will happen with it, that all 5 hubs that are currently in existence for the Brisbane City Council network are on the north side, and there is none on the south, which is a problem, I would say, in the future, because of course we have so much overland creek flooding on the south side, whether it be Norman Creek, Kingfisher Creek, various other areas, and of course they touch onto, it's not just river flooding that affect the Gabba ward. And so, as supportive as I am of this really great new technology, it's important to highlight that without these hubs being built, purposely built in the south side, and with any expansion of this trial, we're getting a bit of a rough deal, because we need this warning. We know the challenge that has been previously, the creek flooding, there wasn't enough warning. This new technology, even though it is a low level of data that is going through, it's not high res, is showing that it is efficient. It's another tool in council's assets to be able to deliver real-time data on creek flooding. We need this to be expanded to the south side, so we can make sure that the data that is received by any sort of future sensors in the future is getting accurate information from the south side. I think the fact that there are only 5 sensors and they're currently on the north side in Brisbane it's something, it's clear, but we just have to work on it because of the creek flooding that does happen on the south. I'm just going to speak briefly on that. I think it's super necessary. Again, I congratulate this team on this trial. The smart sensors are good, but we need those hubs on the south side if we're going to expand this. We need them because of the south side flooding, the overland flooding, and it seems completely like a lack of amenity for the south if there are 5 hubs that the council chose where to put, and none of them are anywhere across the river. Thank you, Chair.
Any further speakers? Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I thank Councillor Massey for her support of this great initiative and the trial that we've undertaken. I would say that there were a lot of examples on the south side of the city where we were undertaking this trial, and the results were coming in extraordinarily well, and we will continue to look at where these monitors can be placed around the city. Thank you.
We'll now put the report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Councillor Hutton, City Standards Committee.
Thank you, Chair. I move that the report of the City Standards Committee held on Tuesday the 28th of May 2024 be adopted.
Seconded.
It's been moved by Councillor Hutton and seconded by Councillor Adderman that the report of the City Standards Committee meeting dated Tuesday 28 May 2024 be adopted. Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair. On Tuesday, we had a presentation outlining the day in the life of a rapid response officer. The Rapid Response Group, which are better known as our RRG officers, provide an immediate response to complaints where there is a risk to public safety or the environment is considered to be high or an immediate priority. This includes immediate response and triage for water and environmental incidents such as pollution, immediate response to animal attacks, unauthorised building works, including noise complaints, unsafe structures and heritage character buildings, vegetation offences and road and footpath safety issues.
RRG officers are assigned to various jobs during their shift based on public reports, and on average, officers respond to over 15,000 reports each and every year. As this chamber knows, our RRG officers also provided 24/7 support and response during severe weather events, providing on-ground information to disaster operations for citywide response and coordination. When a report is received to the contact centre, their work is triaged and prioritised at 2 points. Firstly, at the contact centre, where they gather the required information to help the job to be directed and escalated as a high priority if needed. The job is then sent through CAR's Compliance Coordination Unit, Monday to Friday between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m, and after hours for the high priority work to be escalated to ensure that our RRG operators are out there as quickly as possible. During the presentation, Kirsty provided an overview of the various jobs that our officers do during a shift, and it is safe to say no two jobs are the same. I would like to take the opportunity to thank everyone involved in the Rapid Response Team and Compliance Coordination Unit for their continued and outstanding work. I would also like to thank Councillor Adderman, my deputy, for his great work over the previous 2 weeks in my absence. So thank you so much. I'll leave further debate to the chamber.
Further speakers? As there's no further speakers, we'll put the report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Councillor Howard, Community and the Arts Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the report of the Community and the Arts Committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 28th of May 2024 be adopted.
Seconded.
It's been moved by Councillor Howard and seconded by Councillor Atwood that the report of the Community and the Arts Committee meeting dated Tuesday, 28th of May 2024 be adopted. Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, we had a presentation on the Lord Mayor's City Hall concerts, and it was a very interesting report that we were given, and particularly as I think a lot of our councillors of the committee weren't aware that, of course, we hold these concerts free every Tuesday between February and November from 12 to 1 p.m. in City Hall. And each year the program features up to 44 concerts with more than 40,000 people attending. Madam Chair, it was also learnt that we have been delivering these concerts in council since 1941, and prior to their current format, it consisted mostly of organ and classical concerts, but has now moved into a diverse and contemporary program, which is very much loved by our residents across Brisbane. So it was, I really want to thank the officers for the presentation, but also to thank everyone who participates in the concerts, and particularly to Peter Stiles Enterprises, who for the past 24 years have been providing ushering services at the weekly concerts. It's a fantastic opportunity for people to get to know each other, because the same familiar faces are there every year. And of course, our beautiful City Hall organ also features prominently in some of the presentations. But the other interesting thing that we have introduced this year, of course, is that we have Auslan interpreted concerts, and that's been a great addition to the concerts, and we're very pleased that that's been happening. So again, really want to thank everyone that's involved in making these concerts happen. I know they are much loved across the city, and I commend the report to the chamber.
Further speakers? As there's no further speakers, we'll put the report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Councillor Cunningham, Finance and City Governance Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the report of the Finance and City Governance Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 28th of May 2024 be adopted.
Seconded.
It has been moved by Councillor Cunningham and seconded by Councillor Huang that the report of the Finance and City Governance Committee meeting dated Tuesday 28th of May 2024 be adopted. Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Chair. Our committee presentation last week was on Council's Enterprise Resource Planning Project, otherwise known as ERP. ERP refers to software and systems used by organisations to manage and integrate various core business processes that are critical to the efficient and effective running of an organisation. It enables the functions of finance, human resources, payroll, procurement, assets, supply chain management, inventory and works management. Council's ERP digital program is a multi-year business and technology renewal of our corporate and shared services functions. It ensures we have core operating capabilities and modern systems for delivering community services and programs to the people of Brisbane. For our employees, Madam Chair, the program will uplift operational capability, enable process improvements, improve the usability and performance of our systems. It means that we'll also enable far better reporting and monitoring of performance. It will also improve Council's customer service availability, with residents to be able to engage with Council at any time on any device, with greater digital self-service capabilities in line with what residents expect for this day of age. A key part of the foundation of the program is the upgrade of Council's current version of its SAP system, which has been in place since 2012 and is nearing end-of-life support in 2027. It's important that this critical system is upgraded, Madam Chair, and that processes are modernised to enable effective operational management within Council. And I commend the report to the Chamber.
Any further speakers? Councillor Johnston.
Yes, just briefly on this matter. Over many years, I have raised issues with the lack of support for ward officers when they log jobs with Council. Now, in the past, this Council has spent, in my time here, I would say billions of dollars on upgrading software. Billions of dollars. As part of each review, nobody has considered how the functionality of ward officers are connected to Council operating systems. Now, it's very interesting to me that this latest review probably doesn't do this either, and I'm sure Councillor Cunningham will correct me if I'm wrong. But I think most people would be surprised to know that about 25%, and I think that was the figure that I recall, about 25% of jobs to Council come in through the ward officers. And those jobs are entered into a computer by our ward officers, and we log a job with Council, which might be fixing a pothole or, resurfacing a road. But that does not connect, that system does not connect to Council's operating systems. So manually, a person in the Council call centre has to re-enter all the information that we provide on our ward office system into Council's system for dealing with complaints, which are then allocated out to the various parts of Council. And that's the operating system that Councillor Cunningham has referred to. Now, in the 16 years I've been here, no one has ever addressed what is the most inefficient, analogue and outdated management of Council's systems, which are supporting ward officers who are essentially mini call centres. We all answer the phone and undertake work for constituents. We all do it. And no one in the 16 years that I have been here has anybody addressed the disconnect between the ward office operating systems and the Council operating systems. Now, I don't know how many millions of dollars are going to be spent, or billions are going to be spent on this project, but I know that Boston Consulting Group's getting $1 million to provide some advice to Council about this. My advice is free. I think that this Council needs to do more to improve the operating connectivity between ward officers and Council's operating systems. And it should be a matter of, when we make a request for a resident to clean a drain or fix a footpath, our system talks to Council's system and it goes down the right chute to be actioned as quickly as possible. What should not be happening is somebody in the call centre entering the data again, and we're all human beings, sometimes mistakes are made, The most regular one being, I note that my ward office staff or myself are listed as the complainant, not the constituent, which makes it hard for us then to find who the request was for. That happens, I'd say, more than 50% of the time. So there are processing errors that are happening that are just needless. I'm presuming in all the billions of dollars that council spends on its IT that this would be something that could be addressed. And certainly I would think that if we're about to give $1 million to Boston Consulting to look at improving its advice about operating systems to council, this might be something they could do, perhaps. But if we want to make sure that our constituents' inquiries are being addressed in a timely and efficient way, we need to improve the connectivity and the operating compatibility between ward offices and council systems. It is completely redundant in a contemporary operating system that we have an analogue process to deal with up to 25% of all the complaints that residents make in Brisbane. And I think any person in Brisbane will be shocked to know that our systems don't connect with council systems, that we're relying on a person to do this. So I just say, through you, Madam Chairman, to the Finance Chair, my advice is free. I hope you take it on board. I've asked previously about this. I actually reckon there's more you could do when it comes down to this that would make it better for us. And I raised this with one of the South Regional managers many years ago, and she said there's no way it'll ever happen. At the moment, if we need to find out what the status of a job is, we've got to make a request, and that might be through your ward office liaison, it might be through the CEO, it might be by making a request on a piece of paper. It can take weeks to get some advice back, right? Weeks. Wouldn't it be good if we could log on to the system and have a look at the status of the job and provide an update to the residents? That would mean council records would have to be kept up to date. They would have to be providing advice on the status of a job in the operating system. Council has all these operating systems. We can't see them. We don't know what happens to them. And council spends billions every year doing this. But again, 25% of all jobs that come through our collective ward offices have an antiquated system of connectivity to council. That needs to be fixed. And I hope some of the $1 million that we're handing over to the international consulting firm gets spent on fixing that problem. Thanks.
Further speakers? Councillor Cunningham. We'll now put the report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Petitions. Councillors, are there any petitions? Councillor Allen.
Madam Chair, I have a petition requesting Council implement traffic calming measures on Watcombe Street, Wavell Heights.
Further petitions? Councillor Dixon, may I have a motion for receipt of the petitions, please?
Chair, I move that petitions as presented be received and referred to the committee concerned for consideration and report.
Second.
It has been moved by Councillor Dixon and seconded by Councillor Strunk that all petitions as presented be received and referred to the committee concerned for consideration and report. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Councillors, are there any statements required as a result of an Office of the Independent Assessor or Councillor Ethics Committee order? There being no councillors rising to their feet, are there any matters of general business? Councillor Adderman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I rise to speak about two traffic matters in the Port and Vale ward. As my colleague Councillor Wine said in the chamber a couple of weeks ago, the new traffic bridge at the Mount Crosby Weir will provide major benefits to residents in the western part of my ward, particularly if we experience future flooding issues. This bridge was built by Seqwater as part of the East Bank Flood Resilience Program, excuse me, and it is now open for use. As part of Seqwater's arrangement with Council, the bridge will be handed over to us as an asset to manage going forward. Chair, I was excited recently when asked by Council officers to provide a recommended name for the new bridge. This is a unique opportunity and I'm open to all suggestions. So I decided to write to residents in Mount Crosby, Corona Downs, Lake Manchester, Colo and Chuwa for their feedback on what it should be called. Before doing that, I spoke to the Mount Crosby Historical Society for their input and they provided me with some options. They included an acknowledgement to the original name assigned to Mount Crosby by John Oxley and Alan Cunningham 200 years ago, through to names of engineers associated with the building of the water treatment facility at Mount Crosby. I also reached out to a friend who was a First Nations leader in my community and asked for any suggestions his people may have for a name. If the responses I have already received on my social media post a couple of weeks ago are any indication, I expect arriving at my recommendation won't be an easy decision. Chair, my Facebook post has already reached 45,000 users and generated engagement among 6,500 of them. All that before I receive responses to the 3,000 letters that have gone out this week. But I look forward to the challenge that lies ahead and know from this that we will have a fitting name for this very important piece of infrastructure in the Port Vale ward. Chair, I'd also like to provide a follow-up to a matter I raised in general business last week. You'll recall I spoke about the Google Maps issue of directing motorists unnecessarily down Pinjarra Road when the easier and quicker route between Kenmore and Bellbarry was to simply stay on Moggle Road. Well, I was pleasantly surprised to take a call from a Google representative in Sydney late last week, advising that the anomaly on their Maps app had been rectified and thanking me for bringing it to their attention. Thank you. They provided me with contact details should we ever experience this issue again, so I want to publicly thank Google for their prompt action. Chair, I know Councillor Strunk also mentioned in this chamber last week an issue that he had with Google Maps in his ward. So in the spirit of bipartisanship, I've provided Councillor Strunk with the details of the Google representative to help him have his issue addressed. Thank you.
Further speakers? Yes, Councillor Chongma.
Thank you, Chair. I was recently at the Victoria Park Barabin Green Heart Fair handing out flyers with the Hurston and Kelvin Grove. Sorry? Oh, sorry. My apologies. Oh, sorry. I'm speaking about Victoria Park Barabin and the Barton Mayfair and bush care groups. My apologies, Chair. I was recently at the Victoria Barabin Green Heart Fair handing out flyers with the Hurston Kelvin Grove Resident Action Group, who are dedicated to save Victoria Park. These volunteers are spreading awareness and obtaining signatures for a petition saying no to a stadium and yes to protecting this amazing, precious green space in our inner city. It's vital that we protect the green lungs of our city. These green spaces are going to be even more important for the future, reduce the urban heat island effect, and to enable Brisbane to have any chance of navigating the climate change crisis we are facing. It is crucial we create more biodiversity by rewilding the park, which is a key solution in drawing down carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, maintaining balance and supporting life. And on Sunday, I attended the Barton Mayfair along with Elizabeth Watson-Brown, MP for Ryan, and Michael Bertman, MP for Maywa. This annual fair is organised and held by the Barton State School. We had a great day with kids folding origami and connecting with the community. I want to thank and congratulate the parent volunteers, the Barton State School, the P&C members, teachers, staff for creating a fun and vibrant day for our community. I have personally been involved in helping organise many events and understand the time, hours and energy that goes into preparing and coordinating large school or kindy fairs. This fair was a huge success. Lastly, I'd like to mention that I visited 2 bush care groups recently, coordinated respectively by Ada and Amir and Bruce Gray. Both bush care groups are associated with Save Our Waterways, which is a community catchment organisation working to restore the habitat of our creeks and waterways in Brisbane's north and west. I had the privilege to be taken on a tour by Aidan, who runs the Glen Harding Park Bush Care Group, which is located along Ithaca Creek. Aidan is an extraordinary young person who has a deep passion for the natural world and creating a space for authentic native species to this area. He has an extensive knowledge on native species and weeds and has carefully catalogued and collected native species to create a magical manicure bush area by the creek line. It is wonderful to connect to country and see it restored back to what it would have looked like prior to colonisation. I highly recommend a visit to this area in Glen Harding Park to either weed, plant, mulch or simply connect. Further along the Ithaca Creek, another bush care group operates called Greening the Dawning Street, which is coordinated by Bruce Gray, who has tirelessly, along with many volunteers, created a stunning, well-established forest. I love walking through this space, smelling the forest fragrance while many birds were singing amongst the trees. I'm in my 8th week as a councillor. It is nice to reflect on my role, as it is a privilege to be elected to represent my community and also to provide the resource and influence to work for them. To help our communities build a society where they and their children and grandchildren can flourish and enjoy this precious world we live in. So far, it has been an amazing journey that inspires me more every day to be the best local government representative I can be for the residents of Paddington Ward and the residents of Brisbane. Thank you, Chair.
Further speakers? Councillor Atwood.
Thank you. I rise tonight to speak about my Carina Women's Shed and to provide a bit of an update to the chamber. About a year ago, we held a town hall meeting at the Carina Bowls Club, and I was expecting to have a few ladies show up to see if they'd like this idea, but we had about 200 attend, and it blew me away. It was incredible to see the women just genuinely so excited about the idea of having a hub where they can come and gather and share their skills and support one another. And from that night, we also formed our committee. It's been an incredible journey to see this committee go from strength to strength. From that, we went and visited so many of the other men's sheds around to get an understanding of how they operate and to learn from their strengths as we've been on this journey. I wanted to give a massive shout out to those committee members because genuinely it would not have happened without them. Our President, Linda, thank you so much. To Jenny and Satrina, our 2 Vice Presidents, to Michelle and Anya, our 2 Treasurers, to Melissa and Sam, our 2 Secretaries, and then to Anna, Brooke, Marie, Gail, Jane, Jan, Sasha, Suzanne, Helen, Karen and Alex, our General Committee members. It is Alex. We want to thank you so much. We wouldn't have gotten to where we are. So at the moment, we have our development application currently going through council, and I understand it's currently through that process. So we're just waiting on a few updates from our town planner to fill those requirements. But this Thursday night, we're holding our first social event at the Carina Bowls Club, pizza and barefoot bowls. And we're really excited to update the community on the journey that we've been on and to keep them in the fold. But yeah, we're going out to private industry and everyone to try to get that seed funding as well. Also, a massive shout out to the Carina Leagues Club. They gave us $55,000, which enabled us to pay for the development application and those associated fees. So we wouldn't have been able to do all of that without the Carina Leagues Club. So really grateful to them. I look forward to Thursday night to updating our community, and hopefully we get a really good turnout. And yeah, once again, so grateful and so proud of the committee for all the work that they've done. Thank you.
Further speakers? Councillor Marks.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to rise very briefly to talk about a local resident of mine who passed away just last week. Les was a resident who came into my office most weeks. We called him the eye on the suburbs, but over the last 12 years, he actually became a very good friend to myself and my staff. And he, like I said, he would come in regularly. He also was a really big supporter of mine. He had he enjoyed doing roadsides for me pre-election, every election campaign for the last 4 elections. The last time I saw him was at my thank you event that I held for all the volunteers that worked on my campaign. He did say to me that night that he probably wouldn't be seeing me at the next election because at that point he'd be 96 years old. I said, I'm sure you'll still be around, but unfortunately he had a fall last week and then passed away. In line with his family and his own wishes, he doesn't want a fuss made, so unfortunately there won't be any funeral for myself and my staff to attend, but I thought it was fitting that I mentioned him here in the chambers and what a fabulous man he was, and my heart goes out to his wife Barbara and his little dog who is missing him desperately. Thank you.
Any further speaker? Yep, Councillor Massey.
I rise to speak on two items, the first one being my visit to Nathabong Special School and also my attendance to Darkness to Daylight event last week. Firstly, Nabathong, affectionately known as Nabi, is a small, unique and very special school that provides specialist teaching for students with vision and hearing impairment. Catering for students from early development programs to prep and year 12 in group settings. The challenges that these students have are incredibly caringly and understandingly faced by an incredible staff of incredibly specialised workers in the school. There's about 60 students. I was stoked to have been invited to attend assembly. But not only attend, but participate in learning sign language with the kids and also Braille, and then also participating in a little bit of a dance with everyone where we can. After that, I was pleased to have spent time with PNC President Bruce, the acting principal and deputy principal, as we did a tour of the school, noting the fact that people are vision impaired and now also potentially hearing impaired or both. It was really interesting to be at a school that has these challenges for students but actually be building up. It is a 3-storey school. And so it was great to spend time with them to understand the challenges and offer my support where I can. I'll be back, Nabi. I'm a huge fan, and please reach out if there's anything that you need. Secondly, I want to talk quickly about the Darkness to Daylight event, which is event about domestic violence. I was there at the opening ceremony that also, on Wednesday last week, that also launched the start of the event where we saw hundreds of people doing 110-kilometre runs or walks to raise money for domestic violence and also highlight domestic violence. At a time when the conversation about domestic violence continues with tragic cases related to domestic violence or domestic violence itself being the cause of death of women, happening almost at a weekly rate. It's so important that we find ways to support events like this, whether it is through our presence there, but also in ways to participate. This event enabled a 110-kilometre walk, a 3-kilometre walk, and a 10-kilometre walk and jog. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the 5 a.m. 10K jog because I'm not a jogger, but maybe I'll work on that in the future. Thanks, Chair, that's all.
Any further speaker? Councillor Landers.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I want to speak about two events that occurred recently in Brackenridge Ward, and one was a 10th birthday celebration of Castledine Markets, and the other was the opening of an upgrade to our Lions Park in McPherson Park, Brackenridge. Castledine Markets has become an institution in my area and in Castledine, and it celebrated 10 years. And this was a fantastic day, despite light drizzle of rain. So many people turned up. Castledine Markets has become a great place for local producers, local artisans, creators and makers who are able to sell their wares. And it's somewhere where you can always, every Saturday, you know, go and pick up something new, something different. If you're looking for a birthday present, you're bound to find something there. You're never disappointed. But a lot of people, you know, some people will go early, 6 o'clock in the morning, and get all their wonderful fruit and veg for the week. Others wander in later and enjoy live music. It's another place where our musicians are able to perform to an audience. And in fact, I have seen several musicians at Castledine Markets which then go on to join the Cube Effect program. So I'm very quick to tell young people about this great program. So, you know, it's a great way for us to be aware of our local talent and to encourage them and promote them. So Castledine Markets isn't just the Saturday markets. It's there's a couple of signature days now that have come about. One of them's Barktober, self-explanatory, and it's all about the puppies. But it is great fun that day and very focused on our lovely pups. There's also Christmas in July, which everybody enjoys, and our twilight markets, of course, at Christmas time. So it has become something that everyone looks for these events, and they look forward to every Saturday being able to pop down there somewhere close for us to be able to get locally made and fresh produce. So I do give a shout out to Mark and his team at Castledine Farmers Markets and thank them for everything they've done for our community and for there to be more to see and do. The other one I wanted to talk about was opening up of our upgrades to the Lions Park within McPherson Park at Brackenridge on the last train day. So we have some children in our local area who are in wheelchairs, and it is one of the things I'm quite passionate about doing in my parks and making sure we have more all abilities play equipment. I particularly wanted to have something for wheelchairs in this park because one of our lovely young residents, Hudson, is in a wheelchair, and he goes to Little Athletics in McPherson Park every Friday during the athletics season with his brother and sister, and so, you know, he's a frequent user of our park, so I made sure that this was something that would suit him. It was also something that I worked with the Brackenridge Lions on, as they, as you know, with all your Lions clubs, would have celebrated 75 years. And so this was one of the projects that we collaborated on so that they could mark that event. And it didn't just include the All Abilities carousel. We also, of course, had some extra seating put in, fencing. Anybody who has been to Brackenridge Lions Train Day, and I know Councillor Cunningham was there that day and brought her little ones over, and I know Charlie loved that he got on the train that was called Charlie, so it was lovely to have you there. And I do encourage other councillors, Councillor Collier, you know, to bring Macy over. I think she'd love it. So, so we actually had some fencing to improve the safety of that park. It's very well used, and on train day, it's quite hectic, as you can imagine, with trains and what have you around. So that park has been made safer, and also we have the paths to the All Abilities carousel. And now Hudson can actually hop on there with his brothers and sisters and friends and play as well. And of course, he officially, he didn't cut the ring, but we had a lovely bow there, and he pulled the bow and he opened it officially for us. And I have to say, I was very relieved when he did laugh and he loved going around on the carousel. So very special. While on that topic, I would also just like to give a shout out to his big sister Phoebe Chadwick, who turned 18 last week, and I was very lucky to be invited along to Phoebe's celebration. I've watched Phoebe at Little Athletics, at Brackenridge High as she's grown, and now she's at uni, and it was so lovely to be there. It was a bit of a who's who of Brackenridge and Little Athletics, but it was absolutely fabulous to see the students who are in her cohort with her at Brackenridge High come together and hear about what they're doing. So I do want to give Phoebe a big shout out. She's
a gorgeous girl, a lovely big sister, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Any further speaker? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Chair. I'd just like to speak about some of the things that I wasn't able to chat about in the committee report. Thank you, Councillor Landis, for doing that. First of all, what's happening at the Business Hub in the coming week, what's happening in the month of June, because we've talked about the May Mayhem, and also to congratulate one of my local sporting clubs. First of all, for the Business Hub this week, you need to make sure that you're getting it out to your communities to let you know that we've got a couple of workshops on. First of all, on Wednesday the 5th and Tuesday the 11th, we've got Ignite your communication with compassionate candour. So that one is being hosted by one of our groups about making sure how you can share what it is you love about your work and hopefully and your profession, and share that with your networking talent. We've also got the LMBA pitching workshop as well, which is on Tuesday next week at 10 o'clock. Again, for those businesses that you're encouraging to put their hand up for a Lord Mayor's Business Award, get some inside knowledge from past winners, past judges and mentors on how you might be able to make your business stand out as well. In the month of June, so we finished the month of mayhem of May, which was a lot of sport, and in saying that though, we do have a big night tomorrow night. It is in Sydney. Councillor Adderman, through you, Mr Deputy Chair, but I'm sure it'll be a successful night. You've got your maroon tie there in case, obviously, when that will be coming back in July to Brisbane. But this month is Dine B&E month, so this is the peak month to make sure you get out there and you enjoy everything that is culinary in the city. So we have got over 50 restaurants participating this month for lunch and dinner deals like you've never seen before. There is 90 deals across the city, from steak and chips to tapas to Greek to Chinese and everything else in between at extremely reasonable prices. You can just go on the dinebnethecity.com.au to see what the deals are out there, from whether it's from Donna Chang or whether it's from Metza or Opa. They're all in there trying to encourage people to come into the city and taste their wonderful culinary delights. It is a project that is supported through BEDA and through the Queen Street Mall levy, which is paid for by the traders. So we work with the traders to find out what they would like to see in their city, and Dine B&E has been a popular one for many, many years. There was quite a stacks on last year from those opposite who thought it was an outrage that we spend money on this, but we don't spend money on this. We spend the levy money on it in consultation with the people who actually pay the levy on what they'd like to see. And Dine B&E was extremely popular last year. We've seen it come back with more restaurants and more deals this year. It started on Saturday from the 1st of June. It goes through right through to the 30th. So please hop on the Dine B&E The City website and have a look at all the wonderful lunch and or dinner menus that are there at up to 50% off over the coming month. I'd also like to take this opportunity to congratulate one of my local sporting groups, the Brisbane Metropolitan Touch Association, which have been located at Whites Hill Reserve, which is a fantastic sporting facility for the last 36 years. And on the weekend, they celebrated their 51st anniversary from when they were first established. So I was around then, I won't mention that, but a little bit too young to be playing touch. But I've been involved with that touch community for many years, well before I was a councillor as well. And then, of course, with my own children playing there and reffing there, and now as a local councillor, they do an amazing job to have more to see and do, whether it's something from the Trans-Tasman Touch. They ran all schools for very many years. This weekend they had their anniversary touch competition, and teams from all over Brisbane came out to enjoy the touch, the food, the drinks, the cafe and everything that is so wonderful about Whites Hill Rec Reserve. So I just want to do a shout out to Zach and Cody and the wonderful work that they do at BMTA. I know you're bursting at the seams. We're working on it, guys, but happy birthday for your 51st anniversary, and may there be many more. Thank you, Mr Deputy Chair.
Any further speaker? Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Chair, and I rise to speak on the Brisbane Writers' Festival and more to see and do in Brisbane, following on from the Deputy Mayor's wonderful report, because there really is so much to see and do in Brisbane that I think we could be here all night and not cover it all. But the Schrinner Council is proud of the support that it provides to enable the delivery of the amazing activities across the city that contribute contribute to making Brisbane a great city to live, work and relax. And while there's no way that I could describe all of the great events recently or currently taking place across the city, I am happy to update the Chamber on a few of the amazing activities and events offered for both residents and visitors alike across the city, supported by the Shriner Council. The headliner for last week was, of course, the Brisbane Riders Festival, which kicked off on Thursday the 30th of May and ran until Sunday the 2nd of June. Now, this amazing festival has a celebration of entertainment across 4 days and 150 events. The plot? Full of twists and turns. The characters? A diverse cast of writers, readers and thinkers who come together to enjoy a lively lineup of panel discussions, salons, special events and more. So from blockbuster bestsellers to literally luminaries and everything in between, this year's Brisbane Riders Festival was an unmissable adventure from beginning to end. It was clear that everyone had a great deal of excitement with this year's Riders Festival, with sold-out events for people of all ages. Megan Daly's What's the Buzz About Bees was one example of a sold-out show apart from this year's festival, with lots of little ones keen to meet the author behind The Beehive. Brisbane City Council's Love Your series for young adults was a hit sellout too. And as part of this year's festival, aspiring writers were also encouraged to get first-hand advice from Mark Dappen on how to write true crime, from Nova Wheatman on memoirs, and Amy Kaufman on how to get your story started. The festival also had opportunities for Brisbane residents to attend the ever-popular wordplay events with Charlotte Barkler, Katrina Nansted and Trevor Formile to dive into cultural storytelling. For more than 60 years, the Brisbane Riders Festival has been engaging, entertaining, inspiring and challenging readers and writers alike, with the Shriner Council having long supported the great work that this festival does in achieving this outcome. I'd also like to update the Chamber on the return of this year's Brisbane's Comedy Festival, which launched on Friday the 26th of April and ran until Sunday the 26th of May. Featuring a lineup of more than 350 hilarious events and more than 130 local and international comedians, this year's festival raised the roof at 4 of Brisbane's iconic venues, those being the Brisbane Powerhouse, the Tivoli, the Princess Theatre and the Fortitude Music Hall. We all know the benefits of a good laugh in the company of family and friends, and following the success of the 2023 program, this year's Brisbane Comedy Festival delivered exactly that. Global headliners for this year's festival included British comedy master Stephen K. Amos, Irish actor and comedian Ed Byrne, New Zealander Guy Montgomery and Scotland's Fern Brady. So you can see we had quite an international lineup. Acts that are also brought the laughs across alternative formats to stand up included Australian entertainment icons Annabelle Crabb, Judith Lucy, Kaz Cook and Zan Rowe, just to name a few. And our committee was privileged to hear from the CEO of the Powerhouse that over 80,000 tickets were sold, and as a result of this year's comedy festival, which represents an over 70% increase when compared to ticket sales for the 2019 year. So fantastic to see places such as the Powerhouse delivering for Brisbane, and particularly as the Deputy Mayor has mentioned previously, when sad icons such as the zoo are closing, it's fantastic to see that we can all get out and support some of the amazing venues across Brisbane. The Lord Mayor's Photographic Awards, I'd just like to remind everyone that they're currently open, but not for very much longer. So all of us here in the Chamber know that Brisbane is truly an amazing place to live, work and relax. And as part of this year's Lord Mayor's Photographic Awards, we are asking entrants to capture Brisbane in its best light by sharing the places, people and experiences that make our city shine brightly. So as part of this program, entrants from across Brisbane go into the running to win cash prizes from $1,000 to $5,000, with a total of more than $15,000 available across 8 categories. So whether it's a shot of Brisbane's precious native wildlife, our pristine bushland, the sands on Moreton Island, or the people who call our city home, we're calling on photographers of all abilities to get snapping and showcase all that Brisbane has to offer. Each year we receive thousands of submissions from residents showcasing the amazing moments and locations that make our city great, and we're expecting this this year's submissions to highlight even more of those incredible moments from across Brisbane. This initiative is yet another way that the Shrinner Council encourages Brisbane residents to showcase their creative spirits and celebrates the very best of Brisbane. So, a reminder that submissions for this year's Photographic Awards close at 4 p.m. on Friday the 7th of June, so not much longer to go. So I encourage all of you here in the chamber to share this initiative with the residents of your ward. And through you, Mr Deputy Chair, I couldn't leave out the planetarium and the dark side of the moon. Now, I have to tell you that my daughter recently got along to see the dark side of the moon. It took her a little while to get there, and I don't know that she was around when the first part of it was on, but she certainly enjoyed this, and they even took my granddaughter, which was quite amazing. And so I just want to make mention of our amazing Sir Thomas Brisbane Planetarium, which has been going from strength to strength in delivering new and exciting programming for the residents of Brisbane. And in particular, as I said, we've had over 400 screenings of the Dark Side of the Moon Planetarium experience, which has been the fastest selling planetarium experience to date, with over 33,000 attendees and around 97% of shows selling out in advance. So I think that's just quite amazing for Brisbane. So to cater for this amazing turnaround, we've had to put on a number of additional shows and have extended the screenings up until December, and we're encouraging residents to get in quick to avoid missing this once-in-a-lifetime experience. With tickets just $16 for adults and $12 for concession, this full dome spatial experience makes for an unforgettable night out. And I want to take this moment to particularly recognise Michaela Evans, our planetarium venue manager, for coordinating such an amazing experience. She's doing a fantastic job out there, and so thank you very much, Michaela, to you and your team. And in closing, Deputy Chair, there really is so much for residents to see and do across the city, and it is this Shrinner Council who is committed to continually making Brisbane's lifestyle even better. Thank you.
Any further speaker? I said there's no further speaker. I declare the meeting closed.